Chapter 348. Li Mo's cultivation was already higher than thunderous rocks, and now that he'd broken through, it was even more so. Thunderclap felt as if he were strangling Li Mo's neck and chest, as if he were strangling an incomparably sturdy piece of steel, one that was far tougher than his metallized hands. The spectators couldn't see the actual battle between the two of them, and because Li Mo had suppressed his cultivation to that of a 9th-rank blade master, they all thought that Li Mo wouldn't be able to make it out alive. However, Thunderclap could feel it. It was as if something unexpected had happened. So that's all a dog from the Thunderous family can do. Li Mo laughed disdainfully. When Thunderclap Rock met Li Mo's gaze, the shock in his heart was no less than the fatty he'd fought. Your cultivation is actually higher than a peak blade master. When Thunderclap realized this, despite his arrogant nature, he immediately prepared to flee. Li Mo finally made his move. Just as Thunderous Rock was about to turn and flee, Li Mo's hands turned into a blur. Before anyone could see what was happening, Li Mo's hands had already grabbed Thunderous Rock's neck and lifted him into the air. Ah! Everyone, including the cultivators from the lower continents and the 7 great families of the Dark Abyss continent, let out exclamations of surprise at the same time. Fengbua, can you see through this person's cultivation? Feng Mian, the young master of the Feng family, asked a middle-aged man in his 50s by his side. The middle-aged man was dressed in an embroidered robe, and although he wasn't dressed like a warrior, his tall, straight figure and bright eyes made it clear that he was no ordinary servant. Fengbua narrowed his eyes as he looked at Li Mo. This person is intentionally concealing his strength, so I can't see through his cultivation. But to be able to defeat him so easily, he must be at least a peak 9th-rank blade master, at least a peak 9th-rank blade master. Thunderous Rock didn't just sit there and wait for his death. With a flip of his hand, he pulled out a black dagger and stabbed it toward Li Mo's eyes. Li Mo! Xuanhuan cried out in fright, but what happened next shocked everyone. The dagger had accurately pierced into Li Mo's left eye, but it felt as if it had stabbed into something harder than steel. The dagger was unharmed and so was Li Mo's eyes. A level 2 peak blade master. Fengbua finally saw through Li Mo's true cultivation, and he couldn't help but sound surprised. Count Qingfeng, what did you say? Feng Mian's attention was caught by the scene unfolding before him and he didn't hear Count Qingfeng's words. That black-robed fellow is actually a peak 2nd level blade master. Count of Wind repeated. After reaching the 2nd level of perfection, the solid matter condensed from spirit force elements on the surface of the body will become illusory. Generally, it's impossible to see with the naked eye. Everyone thought that this person used his body to block Thunderclap's dagger, but that's not the case. It's quite rare for a cultivator from a low-tier continent to have such a high cultivation. Count of Wind turned to Feng Mian. Young master, if we can make this person our slave, we'll be able to greatly strengthen our Feng family. Count of Wind is right. The highest level of cultivation I've seen in the past was only a peak 9th-rank blade master. I didn't expect to see a 2nd-level blade master today, Feng Mian commented. But that kid from the Thunderclap family isn't a pushover either. We'll have to plan this carefully. A series of soft cracking sounds could be heard. Li Mo had crushed the metallized skin on Thunderrock's neck. Thunderclap's dazzling golden skin cracked inch by inch under Li Mo's grip, and fresh blood flowed out of the wound. Everyone, including Thunderclap, was dumbfounded by this scene. Is the kid from the Thunderclap family stunned? Why didn't he call for help? Li Mo turned to look at Thunderclap, his inky black eyes glaring coldly at Thunderclap, causing him to shiver involuntarily. Thunderclap, Thunderclap, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and help. Thunderclap called out to the other warriors in the group. Capture this person alive. I want him alive, no. Thunderclap immediately changed his tone. Even if he's dead. As soon as Thunderclap's words fell, 6 warriors rushed out from the Thunderclap's ranks, surrounding Li Mo from all directions. Li Mo glanced at Xuanhuan, who was standing by the side. Although she appeared calm and collected, she was actually quite worried about Xuanhuan. Although she trusted in Li Mo's abilities, she couldn't help but worry in the face of danger. Who would have thought that the icy-faced kid's cultivation would increase again in such a short period of time? Thunderclap turned to Xuanhuan. His name is Li Mo and he's my husband, Xuanhuan replied seriously. Please remember this name. Li Mo is your husband? Thunderclap asked as if he didn't understand Xuanhuan's words at all. Yes, I've already married him since the first time I saw you in the spiritual beast valley. Can't you tell that we're husband and wife? Thunderclap's mouth twitched. He looks so much older than you that he's more like your brother or uncle. Do people from which continent prefer old couples with young wives? Xuanhuan didn't pay him any more attention. What a pity, Thunderclap murmured. Xuanhuan, I'm afraid you'll be a widow very soon. What do you mean? Xuanhuan's gaze toward Thunderclap was murderous. Thunderclap didn't mind Xuanhuan's hostility at all. As long as he could attract Xuanhuan's attention, he would be very happy, whether it was a good or bad thing. On this continent, anyone who offends the Thunderclap family won't have a good ending. This Liemo fellow has already been labeled as dead, so I advise you to draw a clear line between yourself and him as soon as possible, lest you be implicated. It's still too early to say who'll have a good ending. Xuanhuan retorted. What are you all standing around for? Go. Kill that arrogant mole for me. Thunderbolt roared angrily at the warriors in the field. The reason why the warriors didn't dare to step forward was because they were afraid of the rock in Limeau's hand. Thunderclap's throat was the most vulnerable part of his neck, and if he wanted to, he could snap his throat and kill him instantly. If Liemo wanted to send Xuanhuan out, he would have to first confuse the crowd so that he could take advantage of the chaos. Thus, his eyebrows twitched, the corners of his mouth curled up, and he exerted force in his hand. There was an extremely clear cracking sound, and the vicious and arrogant Thunderclap's head tilted to the side, and a mouthful of blood spurted out from his mouth. Thunderclap's eyes were wide open, as if he hadn't even realized what had happened before he lost his life. Useless piece of trash. Liemo tossed Thunderclap's corpse to the ground as if it were trash. Boss. Thunderbolt, Thunderbolt, and the other warriors all cried out in alarm, glaring at Liemo with fiery eyes. What an audacious rat. How dare you kill our boss? Today we'll tear you to shreds. Thunderclap roared. Brothers attack. Several burly men, all of whom were above 9th rank blade masters, charged at Liemo at the same time, pulling out their own weapons. There were swords that emitted raging flames, spears made of ice crystals, and vines that seemed to have a life of their own. All of their weapons were pointed at Liemo. Liemo didn't move, and his inky black eyes didn't move. However, no one's movements could escape his eyes. With a clang, when all of the weapons converged, Liemo's entire body rose into the air and began to spin in midair. His rapidly spinning body landed on top of the crowd's weapons, sending the weapons of those who hadn't retreated in time flying. Liemo's body didn't stop spinning. Gradually, a whirlwind began to form around Liemo's body, and the whirlwind grew larger and larger, sweeping up the dirt on the ground and causing a cloud of dust to rise. Apart from those within the Pillar of Light, the rest of the 7 noble families covered their mouths and noses with their sleeves. Xuanhuan's vision was also obscured by the flying dust. Suddenly, a hand grabbed her arm. Thinking that it was Thunderclap, Xuanhuan pulled out a dagger and was about to stab the man when she heard Liemo's low voice. Yin'er, it's me. Let's get out of here. A green light appeared beneath Liemo's feet, and he took Xuanhuan into the air. Liemo's trying to escape with Xuanhuan. Rong Yueshan shouted from within the Pillar of Light. When the warriors heard this, they didn't care about the sand in their eyes. Sword light rose from their feet and they soared into the sky. Young master, this old man will go take a look. Count of Wind said to Wind Crown. A 5-colored sword light appeared under his feet as he gave chase. Liemo and Xuanhuan quickly arrived at the restrictive wall, and their pursuers were just as quick. Liemo stretched out both fists, channeling all of his spiritual energy into them, and then punched at the wall with all his might. As a peak 2nd-rank blade master, coupled with Liemo's full-strength attack, the force of the blow was immense. Xuanhuan saw that the transparent wall actually rippled, indicating that it had been shaken quite a bit. With a loud boom, Liemo's second punch successfully blasted a large hole in the wall. Where do you think you're going? The pursuers were already very close. Yin'er, leave first. My sword of azure light will take you to a safe place, Liemo said. Once I've dealt with these pursuers, I'll come find you. But without your sword, how are you going to fly? Xuanhuan asked. I have my own ways. You go first. As he spoke, Liemo leaped off the sword and kicked a burly man behind him. Chapter 349. The warriors of the Thunderbolt family had thought that Liemo was going to escape with Xuanhuan, but they hadn't expected him to suddenly turn around and attack them. The one leading the charge was Thunderbolt, whose temper was second only to Thunderbolt's. Liemo kicked him in the chest, causing him to fall from his sword. Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt chased after Thunderbolt's falling body. Spiritual swords had a master, and Thunderbolt's sword under Liemo's feet turned into a streak of light as it chased after its master. By then, Liemo had already leaped into the air and kicked at another warrior, sending him flying as well. Having learned their lesson, the rest of the warriors were on their guard, and they quickly distanced themselves from Liemo. Just then an ice crystal formed beneath Liemo's feet, and he leaped into the air once more. Just as he was about to fall, another ice crystal formed beneath his feet. Even without his spiritual sword, Liemo was still able to prevent himself from falling. Everyone be careful. This person doesn't have a spiritual sword. Thunderbolt shouted. It won't be convenient for us to move either. Everyone attack from all directions. At Thunderbolt's command, all of the warriors attacked Liemo at the same time, which was exactly what Liemo had wanted. Although Liemo didn't have a spiritual sword, his spiritual energy cultivation was quite high, and he could form ice crystals in midair in the blink of an eye. However, stepping on ice crystals would inevitably slow him down, and he wouldn't be able to take the initiative to attack. Just as all the warriors were about to attack him from different directions, Liemo stepped on the ice crystals and stretched his arms to his sides. Dozens of icicles that were twice as thick as usual appeared around him, forming a dense circle around him. These icicles glowed with an eerie blue light, and even though they were 20 to 30 feet away, the warriors could still feel the bone-chilling cold from them. Go! Liemo growled, and the ice crystals shot toward the warriors charging at him, causing a cacophony of screams to fill the air. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. 2 of the warriors were struck by the icicles and fell from midair, while one managed to dodge in time. Of the 2 spiritual swords, one chased after its master, while the other remained motionless. It turned out that one of the 2 warriors had been pierced through the chest by an ice crystal and died on the spot. His spirit sword had become an ownerless object, and the green sword light on it was getting dimmer and dimmer. Once it lost the support of spirit energy, it would fall down. At this moment, Liemo leaped onto the sword. The sword trembled and seemed to struggle a little, but it quickly began to glow with a green light. Evidently, it had accepted Liemo as its new master. But before they could even blink, Liemo had already transformed into a shadow and kicked them off the spiritual sword. The warriors of the Dark Abyss continent are nothing more than this, Liemo said indifferently as he looked at the 3 fallen warriors. Then he stepped on the spiritual sword he had just subdued, turned around and was about to leave. Hero, save me. At this moment, a cry for help came from below. Liemo looked down. He saw that the pillar of light on the ground had been removed, and a large group of hundreds of cultivators had been released. Dozens of warriors from the other 6 families had charged into the crowd at the same time. These cultivators from the lower continents were mostly 8th-rank blade masters, while the warriors from the 6 families were all 9th-rank blade masters. They held weapons in their hands and were shackled at their waist. Like wolves entering a pen of sheep, they spread their claws and fangs to capture the disorderly cultivators. In an instant, all sorts of techniques were used in the crowd. Red flames, white ice crystals, green and blue vines and earth-yellow rocks flew everywhere. It was a tragic sight to behold. This was the true hunting ground for humans. Liemo saw that Lin Qingchen, Guanruliu, and Zhong Yang had all been chained up by the Feng warriors. Given Liemo's current cultivation, it wasn't impossible for him to turn back and save them, but he had expended a great deal of spiritual energy in the battle just now, and he wasn't confident that he could escape unscathed. Young man, please wait a moment. Just as Liemo was about to leave, the deep voice of a middle-aged man suddenly sounded from behind him. Liemo paused and looked in the direction of the voice. He saw that it was a middle-aged man in a brocade robe standing behind him in the air, stepping on a 7-colored sword light. Liemo's eyes narrowed, his heart filled with shock. He hadn't even noticed when this middle-aged man had appeared behind him. What can I do for you, senior? This man's cultivation was definitely higher than Liemo's, and Liemo's tone no longer contained any of his previous condescension. It's rare for a young man of your cultivation to appear on a lower continent, the Count of Feng said amiably. Count of Feng said to Liemo with a friendly expression. But on the Dark Abyss continent, even if your cultivation isn't bad, you won't be able to do much on your own. Why don't you join the Feng family? Thank you for your kindness, senior. Liemo's tone remained indifferent. I'm used to being on my own and I don't need protection. We'll meet again. Liemo turned to leave, but a streak of light flashed past him and sealed the hole in the wall that Liemo had shattered with his fist. Liemo turned back, his eyes glinting coldly at the Count of Feng. Young man, you're too impulsive. You need to be taught a lesson. The Count of Feng's amiable expression vanished, and an aura so powerful that even Liemo was shocked emanated from his body. The Count of Feng spread out his hands and used the icicle technique that Liemo had used earlier. Dozens of icicles formed. Li Mo pushed his hands forward, forming a wall of ice in front of him. The Count of Feng clasped his hands together, and the dozens of icicles quickly gathered together to form a giant icicle. The sharp icicle was aimed in Li Mo's direction. "Young man, haven't you seen this move before?" The Count of Feng laughed. "If you can withstand this, I'll let you go." The Count of Feng pushed his hands forward, and the giant icicle spun and pierced the ice shield in front of Li Mo. Shards of ice scattered in all directions. Li Mo tried his best to infuse all his spiritual energy into the ice shield to increase its durability. "Not bad," the Count of Feng said, then infused some of his spiritual energy into the icicle. Blood immediately flowed from the corner of Li Mo's mouth. He'd already expended a lot of spiritual energy in the previous battles, and now that he was facing someone with a much higher cultivation than him, it was obvious that his spiritual energy was insufficient. Forcefully exerting his strength had damaged his body. If this continued, his spiritual vortex would rupture, and the consequences would be unimaginable. Seeing that Li Mo was at the end of his tether, the Count of Feng added a bit more spiritual energy. Li Mo spat out a mouthful of blood, and the ice shield in front of him instantly vanished. The giant icicle spun toward Li Mo's face. Li Mo closed his eyes. Just as the icicle was a few millimeters away from Li Mo's face, it suddenly vanished as well. Li Mo's consciousness gradually blurred, and he finally fell from the spiritual sword. The Count of Feng waved a hand toward Li Mo's falling body, and a gust of wind appeared beneath him, carrying him slowly to the front of the Feng family's entourage. On the ground, the hundreds of cultivators from the lower-ranked continents had all been captured, and they stared at the unconscious Li Mo in despair. Some of the students of Kongming Academy in particular were even weeping. They'd long known that this would be a dangerous mission, but they hadn't expected to be enslaved as soon as they'd arrived, handcuffed like livestock. Coupled with the fact that Li Mo had been captured, their hearts were filled with despair. "Count of Feng, you're indeed a man of your word," Thunderclap said as he walked up to the Feng family's entourage. "You flatter me, Second City Lord," the Count of Feng smiled amiably. "It's a pity that the girl escaped." The Count of Feng could tell that Thunderclap treated Xuanhuan differently. If she escaped, so be it. Thunderclap rubbed his nose. "If that's the case, then so be it." Wind Crown stepped forward and said, "We'll head back first." As soon as the Wind Crown finished speaking, two burly men stepped forward to carry Li Mo away. "Wait." Thunderclap stopped them. "This person has a grudge against the Thunderclap family, and I've already said that he belongs to us." "Yes." The Count of Feng smiled faintly. "But your Thunderclap family doesn't have the ability to capture him, and the Fengs didn't fight with you for him, did they?" The Count of Feng's words rendered Thunderclap speechless. "Let's go." The Count of Feng raised his voice. "I'm willing to use a spirit crystal mine to exchange for him. What do you say?" Thunderclap gritted his teeth. The Count of Feng clearly hadn't expected Thunderclap to make such an offer. "Are you serious?" "Of course," Thunderclap replied. "But I want to bring her along." Thunderclap pointed at Lin Qingqian. Thunderclap had seen Lin Qingqian speak with Xuanhuan earlier, and he could tell that the two of them had a close relationship. Thunderclap firmly believed that as long as he had both Li Mo and Lin Qingqian in his hands, Xuanhuan would be returned sooner or later. "All right, deal." Thunderclap agreed. The Sword of Azure Light carried Xuanhuan all the way until they reached a small, uninhabited mountain forest. Xuanhuan waited for Li Mo to meet up with her. 4 hours later, the sky began to darken, but Xuanhuan continued to stare at the sword in front of her. The sword's aura grew dimmer and dimmer, and Xuanhuan's expression grew more and more serious. Once a spiritual sword had been refined, it would be connected to its master. Normally, it would be hidden within its master's spiritual vortex, and the moment it was summoned, it would continue to glow. If the sword's aura dimmed, it meant that something had happened to the sword's master, and it was unable to supply sufficient spiritual energy to the sword. If the sword's aura was extinguished, it meant that its master had passed away, and the sword was now masterless. "Don't extinguish it, don't extinguish it, don't extinguish it." Xuanhuan clenched her fists, staring unblinkingly at the sword. Just as the spirit sword was about to be extinguished, it finally stabilized. A faint cyan spirit light enveloped the entire sword like a layer of gauze, and a lifelike dragon-shaped carving appeared on the sword's body. Chapter 350. This was the first time Xuanhuan had seen Li Mo's sword in its true form, but she wasn't in the mood to take a closer look. She stowed the sword away in her pocket dimension, then called out to Qiuqiu in her mind. "Qiuqiu, wake up, Qiuqiu." What's wrong, mistress? What happened? Xiao woke up from its meditation, sensing the anxiety in Yun Ruoyan's voice. Can you sense Liamo and see if he's injured? Although Yun Ruoyan guessed that Liamo was injured, she couldn't help but ask Xiao to confirm it. After a while, Xiao replied that it couldn't sense Liamo's aura. Yun Ruoyan's last shred of hope was dashed, and she was certain that Liamo had been kidnapped by the Thunderbolt family. Liamo, wait for me to save you. Yun Ruoyan's eyes shone with a murderous intent. Thunderbolt, if you dare harm Liamo in the slightest, I won't let you off. Yun Ruoyan began to survey her surroundings. She wasn't in the middle of a forest but rather a small, wild forest. Yun Ruoyan deduced that she was probably in the wilderness. What she needed to do now was to leave the forest, enter Thunderbolt City, and find a way to rescue Liamo. After about 15 minutes, Yun Ruoyan finally found a small path in the forest. By then the sky was already dark. She took out a spiritual beast core and used its faint glow to illuminate her surroundings. Right now she was only a 6th-rank blade master, and her night vision was greatly reduced. Using the faint glow of the beast core, Yun Ruoyan walked for more than 2 hours before finally exiting the forest. As soon as she exited the forest, she saw a few campfires not far in front of her. Yun Ruoyan reflexively crouched down and hid herself behind a bush, completely concealing her aura. Yun Ruoyan counted the campfires in front of her. There were 4 in total, which meant that there were at least 20 people camping. Under the faint glow of the fire, she could also see 4 luxurious-looking carriages. Based on Yun Ruoyan's knowledge on the Xuanhuan continent, such a group of 20 or so people were usually cultivators who were out hunting beasts, or bodyguards who were doing business. These people were usually burly, rough men who posed a certain degree of danger. Although she was hungry and tired, she decided not to take the risk. Just as Yun Ruoyan was about to leave in another direction, a figure darted out from the bushes not far in front of her. Who is it? A low voice rang out from the black silhouette. At the same time, a snow-white sword light flashed. The black silhouette had pulled out his weapon. With the help of the snow-white sword light, Yun Ruoyan was able to clearly see the face of the black figure. It was the face of a rather valiant woman, and she seemed to be slightly older than herself. Sister, spare me. Yun Ruoyan immediately squatted down and begged for mercy. She was tall for a woman on the Xuanhuan continent, but she was absolutely petite on the Dark Abyss continent. For example, Yun Ruoyan had thought that the woman in front of her was a man. Yun Ruoyan hugged her knees as she squatted on the ground, looking very much like a lost rabbit. The tip of the woman's sword reached Yun Ruoyan's head, but Yun Ruoyan had no intention of resisting. The woman retracted her sword, then led Yun Ruoyan toward the campfire without asking any questions. Yun Ruoyan could see that the people surrounding the fire weren't burly men, but were all women. Moreover, each of them was quite attractive and they were all of different shapes and sizes. Hoodlum, why did you come back with a little white rabbit after going to the toilet? A woman dressed in green laughed. Yun Ruoyan was dressed in the white uniform of Kongming Academy, and the description of a woman dressed in green was quite apartment. More than 20 women, and more than 40 gazes simultaneously shot toward Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan's head was lowered and her body was curled up, making her look even more like a little white rabbit. That's right, I didn't expect to find such a beauty on the way to Thunderclap City, another woman laughed. Then a burst of feminine laughter rang out. Auntie Hong, this is the woman I found by the forest. Hoodlum didn't seem to hear the laughter as she spoke to a woman dressed in red sitting by the campfire. Raise your head. A slightly raspy but pleasant female voice rang out. Yun Ruoyan slowly raised her head in response, and a beautiful face appeared before Yun Ruoyan's eyes. Who are you? What are you doing in this wilderness in the middle of the night? The woman stared into Yun Ruoyan's eyes. Yun Ruoyan's large eyes flashed as if tears would fall at any moment. Speak properly. Hoodlum seemed a little impatient. The woman in red waved a hand at Hoodlum, then looked at Yun Ruoyan with a gentler gaze. Young lady, don't be afraid. We're not bad people. Speak slowly. Sister. Yun Ruoyan paused for a moment before whispering, my brother and I were slaves. My master wanted to sell me to some unclean place, and my brother fled with me in the middle of the night. My master's men chased after us and my brother hid me in the forest, then went to lure them away. Then I saw my brother being taken away. As Yun Ruoyan spoke, large tears fell uncontrollably from her eyes. When she thought of Li Mo's serious injuries and capture, and how her 2 sisters wouldn't be able to escape their clutches, her heart ached. Her tears weren't fake at all. So he's a pitiful person. That's right. Just like us, We're nothing more than duckweed in this world. Xuanhuan's words resonated with the women present, and they all began to feel sad. As soon as Xuanhuan saw their attire, as well as the extravagant carriage not far away, she could roughly guess what they were doing. Auntie Hong's beautiful eyes were fixed on Xuanhuan the entire time, but Xuanhuan didn't meet her gaze directly. Instead, she tried to avoid her gaze. However, the content of Auntie Hong's gaze didn't escape Xuanhuan's notice. At first, she looked at Xuanhuan suspiciously. Then, her gaze turned to trust, and now she looked at Xuanhuan appreciatively. Xuanhuan knew that she still had a good appearance, and these women's jobs had strict requirements for their appearances. An idea formed in Xuanhuan's mind. She pleaded, "Sister, please take me in. I can do anything, whether it's manual labor or manual labor." Auntie Hong didn't immediately agree. She lowered her head and thought for a moment, then asked Xuanhuan, "Which city are you from and which family servant are you from?" Xuanhuan instantly knew why Auntie Hong was asking this. If the city they were heading to was the city that Xuanhuan had escaped from, it would bring trouble to the group. Xuanhuan blurted out, "I'm from Wind City, a servant of the Feng family. We're going to Thunder City." The Feng and Thunder families have always had a grudge, and the two cities rarely interact with each other. "It's not a problem. Auntie Hong, please take her in," the green-clothed woman pleaded. The other women also began to plead for her. "Do you really want to stay with me?" Auntie Hong asked Xuanhuan. "Yes, please take me in, Auntie Hong," Xuanhuan replied. "Do you know what we do?" Auntie Hong asked again. "I've seen you in Wind City. You're courtesans who sell your skills, not your bodies," Xuanhuan replied. "All right, in that case you can stay with me for now." Auntie Hong finally nodded in agreement. "But I don't keep idlers here. Before you can go on stage to sell your skills, you should follow Hoodlum and do some chores." Just like that, Xuanhuan successfully joined the group of 20-odd courtesans. "Come, little white bunny, sit here with me," the green-clothed woman beckoned to Xuanhuan, and Xuanhuan obediently sat down. "You're quite the beauty," the green-robed woman praised, propping her chin on her palm as she looked at Xuanhuan. "Sister, you're pretty too," Xuanhuan praised the woman sincerely, causing the woman to giggle again. "Sister, I heard from brother that the city lord of Thunder City is very powerful. Is that true?" Xuanhuan asked. "Sister, you said that Thunder City and Wind City aren't on good terms. If Thunder City were to attack Wind City, which city would be more powerful?" "The city lord of Thunder City, Thunder Flame, is very powerful," the green-clothed woman replied. "His eldest son, the young lord of Thunder City, is also quite capable. If the two cities were to go to war, Thunder City would have a higher chance of winning." "Why are you asking about this?" "I'm thinking that if Thunder City defeats Wind City, my brother might be saved." Xuanhuan had long since known that the green-clothed woman would ask this question, so she told her the answer she had prepared beforehand. "Don't even think about it," the green-clothed woman replied. "Then why? Aren't the two families at odds?" Xuanhuan pressed. "Because of the spirit crystal mine," Little Qing replied. "Don't tell me you don't even know that? I'm a lowly servant and I rarely leave the estate." "All right, if there's anything you don't know, I'll tell you." Little Qing told Xuanhuan that the Thunder family controlled most of the spirit crystals on the continent. Spirit crystals were a necessity for cultivation, and could even be used as currency. In short, they were extremely valuable. The other families all had to obtain spirit crystals from the Thunder family, so they couldn't openly offend them no matter how displeased they were. As a result, the Thunder family had relied on mining spirit crystals to become the hegemon of the continent. So that's how it is? Xuanhuan thought. She really wanted to ask the woman for a spirit crystal to see what it looked like, but she was afraid of exposing herself, so she could only give up. "All right, it's getting late. Everyone, let's sleep early. We still have a long journey tomorrow," Auntie Hong said. Everyone slept in their own blankets, and the green-clothed woman and Xuanhuan squeezed into one. Chapter 351. In her dreams, Liemo and the Lin sisters were locked up in a dark, damp dungeon. Liemo was heavily injured and unconscious, and no matter how much she called out to him, he wouldn't wake up. "Liemo, Liemo." Xuanhuan called out in her dreams. "Hey little bunny, wake up, wake up." The girl in green nudged Xuanhuan awake, and she immediately sat up. She looked around cautiously, only to see that the sky was only beginning to brighten, and that everyone was starting to get up. "We're about to set off. Hurry up and we'll reach Thunderbolt City by today," the girl in green told Xuanhuan as she packed up. After an entire day of non-stop travel, The four-carriage entourage of 20 finally arrived at the outskirts of Thunderbolt City in the evening. Xuanhuan parted the curtains of the carriage and looked outside. About 100 feet away, she could see the towering gates of Thunderbolt City, as well as the city walls that stretched as far as the eye could see. Both the city gates and the city walls were dyed a dark red, as if they had been soaked in blood. Against the backdrop of dusk, they looked both imposing and eerie. There was a checkpoint at the city gates that allowed entry and exit, but there were more exits and fewer entrants. Hoodlum rode forward and exchanged a few words with the guards, then rode back to Auntie Hong's carriage. It costs 100 spirit crystals to enter the city. What? 100 spirit crystals? Wasn't it only 50 last time? The girl in green by Xuanhuan's side exclaimed. This Thunderbolt family has a mind of their own, but they're still so harsh. They're really ruthless. Xuanhuan saw a red sleeve stretch out of the carriage in front of her, revealing a heavy sack in her slender hand. Hoodlum took the sack, rode back to the city gates and handed the sack to the guards. Then the carriage entered Thunderbolt City without a hitch, and night had once again enveloped the land. Xuanhuan kept looking out the window at the buildings on both sides of the street, and at the few pedestrians on the streets. This must be your first time here, right? The girl in green asked. Yes, Sister Qingqing, Xuanhuan replied, not bothering to hide her curiosity. There is a curfew in Thunderbolt City. When the sky turns completely dark, every house will close their doors and lock themselves up. There are no pedestrians on the streets, so there's nothing to see here. Little Qing said, it's crowded during the day. When you come out with Hoodlum to buy things, you can take a stroll. At this time, the carriage turned a corner and a wooden building appeared in front of them. There was a plaque hanging above the wooden building with the words Courier Station written on it. The carriages entered in a single file. Get ready to get off, little bunny, Little Qing said. Sister Qingqing, how long will we be staying here? Xuanhuan asked. It'll take at least 3 or 4 days. It's hard to say if we can get more business, Little Qing said. Oh, I see. In her mind, she began to think about how she would infiltrate the Thunderbolt Manor, find Liemo, the Lin sisters, and rescue them in the next few days. 4 streets away from this relay station, there was a tall and heavily guarded mansion. This was the City Lord Mansion of Thunderclap City. There was a dungeon in the City Lord's mansion that was used to detain slaves. Let's go in. Don't dilly-dally. A group of more than 10 cultivators from the lower-tier continents were herded into the dungeon like livestock. Zhuo Yifeng carried Liemo on his back, and Lin Qingchen and Lin Qingxue held each other's hands. The other cultivators were all burly men dressed in beastly garments. Shui Jie was carried on one man's back, and Fatty was carried by 2 men. There were already a few slaves in the dungeon, and it became even more crowded after the crowd entered. All of you stay here obediently. We'll issue you slave tokens tomorrow, the 2 guards said to the crowd before leaving. The slaves who were already present were unusually cold, but they didn't seem to have any intention of provoking them. In fact, they didn't even bother to look at them. Just like that, the 2 groups of people each occupied one side of the cell, leaving a narrow gap in the middle, but it was still peaceful. After an entire day of fighting, Zhuo Yifeng, the Lin sisters, and the others were all exhausted, and they only communicated with their eyes. Zhuo Yifeng put Liemo down, and Lin Qingchen walked up to him to take his pulse, then fed him a spiritual pill. Lin Qingxue gave Lin Qingchen a questioning look, but Lin Qingchen only shook her head. Liemo's spiritual vortex had been shaken, and his spiritual energy was almost depleted. He was in a deep coma, but it was hard to say when he'd wake up. Ouch. At this moment, a cry of pain broke the silence in the dungeon. Can't you guys be gentler? The person who spoke was the fatty. The 2 men carrying him had intentionally thrown him to the ground, causing his eyes to narrow into slits. You're already awake, yet you're still pretending? A burly man in beastly garb grumbled. There was a bite mark on his neck from the cultivator who had been bitten by Zongyang earlier. I just woke up. The fatty rubbed his buttocks, then turned to the unconscious Shui Jie with concern. How is she? She's been fed a spiritual pill. Her wounds will slowly heal, but I'm afraid her face will be ruined, the burly man sighed. At the start of the human hunt, he and the other burly men had taken the initiative to charge towards the Thunder family's group, with the goal of protecting Shui Jie. When the beastly men heard this, they were all enraged, but there was nothing they could do. Let me take a look at her, Lin Qingchen said to the burly man. I'm an apothecary. The burly men immediately made way for Lin Qingchen. Lin Qingchen walked over and examined Shui Jie's injuries. The wounds on her face are very serious, but I happen to have some spiritual medicine that can help her recover. Lin Qingqian said as she placed her hand on Shuejiayi's pulse. Then Lin Qingqian's eyes shone with amazement. She discovered that Shuejiayi's damaged spiritual vortex was rapidly recovering, and her spiritual energy was also recovering. Did you guys give her some kind of miraculous medicine? How did she recover so quickly? Lin Qingqian asked. The burly men were grateful to Lin Qingqian for saying that she could help Shuejiayi recover her looks, but they seemed to have some misgivings. They were a little hesitant to answer her question. Why can't I tell you? Look at the situation we're in. The fatty took out a snow-white stone and handed it to Lin Qingqian. Sister, look at this. Lin Qingqian took the stone and immediately felt threads of spirit energy seeping into her body bit by bit, entering her spirit ocean through her meridians. This is... Lin Qingqian looked at the fatty in astonishment. This is a spirit crystal. It can help with cultivation and spirit energy recovery, the fatty said. A senior of our family brought it back from the Dark Abyss continent, but there were too few of them. We only have 2. One is with me and the other is with Shuejiayi. I can't believe such a miraculous thing exists. Lin Qingqian couldn't help but say, many people from our academy have entered the Dark Abyss continent, but I've never heard of the existence of a stone like this. Lin Qingqian handed the stone back to the fatty after saying this. I'll give this to you as a token of my gratitude. The fatty didn't take it. Coincidentally, you have a seriously injured person on your side. It might be of use to him. Thank you very much. Lin Qingqian didn't refuse. She took out the ointment she'd brought with her and applied it to Shuejiayi's face, then returned to Li Mo's side with the spirit crystal. Master Imo, hurry up and wake up. Lin Qingqian placed the spirit crystal into Li Mo's robes. As soon as the spirit stone came into contact with Li Mo's body, it began to send a steady stream of spiritual energy into Li Mo's body. Li Mo's damaged spiritual vortex was like dry soil suddenly being poured into a spring, and it immediately began to absorb as much spiritual energy as it could. By the next day, Li Mo's spirit ocean had more or less recovered, and by the evening of the second day, he'd recovered 80 to 90% of his spirit energy. Li Mo finally awoke from his coma. He was the only one left in the cell, everyone else had been taken out. Li Mo sensed the presence of the spirit crystal and reached into his robes to take it out. The originally pure white stone, which still glowed faintly with spirit energy, had turned a grayish white. Li Mo had absorbed most of the spirit energy within it. So this is a spirit crystal. Li Mo held the stone in front of his eyes and examined it closely. Empress Shuetong and the First Elder had told him about its miraculous properties, but not every spirit crystal contained a large amount of spiritual energy. The one in Li Mo's hand was clearly a high-grade spirit crystal. Li Mo cautiously put away the stone, then lay down and pretended to be unconscious. The footsteps stopped at the cell's entrance. Why isn't he awake yet? Is he dead? The burly man in charge of the slaves muttered to himself as he looked at the unconscious Li Mo. The sound of a lock being unlocked could be heard as the burly man approached Li Mo. At this time, Li Mo had 2 choices in front of him. First, he could defeat the burly man. With Li Mo's current strength, he would be able to leave without anyone noticing. Then he could easily find Xuanhuan based on his connection with the Azure Lightsword. Second, continue to feign unconsciousness and wait for an opportunity to strike. He had already entered the Thunderbolt Manor and Qin Feng, the Lin sisters and Zhui Feng were all there. If he left, it would be difficult for him to come back and rescue them. The guard kicked Li Mo lightly, then felt for the artery in his neck. After confirming that he was still alive, he turned and walked out of the cell. In that short period of time, Li Mo quickly made a decision. Stay. Although he was worried about Xuanhuan, he decided to save everyone this time so that he wouldn't have to take her on a second adventure. Only after the burly man left did Li Mo slowly open his eyes. Within the city lord's manor, all of the slaves had been gathered in a sparring arena. A youth dressed in a brocade robe sat atop the sparring arena, the second young master, Pai Yang. Second young master, everyone's here, the bearded steward said eagerly. The bearded steward turned to Thunderbolt and said attentively, actually, there's no need for second young master to personally arrange for slaves. Just leave it to this servant. Father and brother are inspecting the spirit crystal mine, and they've left the family's affairs to me. Naturally, I have to do it myself, Pai Yang replied. Steward Hu, you may begin. Although that was what Pai Yang said, he was muttering to himself, I wonder if Xuanhuan will suddenly appear to rescue that ice-faced man and his sister. Pai Yang's gaze swept across the nearly 100 slaves, but he didn't see Li Mo anywhere. Butler Hu, Thunderbolt suddenly called out. Where did that black-clothed ice-faced man go? Chapter 352. Replying to second young master. The bearded manager said, that person was seriously injured and has yet to wake up in prison. How badly injured? He can't be dead, can he? Thunderclap sat up straight and looked at the bearded man. He wanted to use Liemo to lure Yunruoyan out, but if Liemo were to die there would be no value to him. Moreover, Thunderclap knew that Yunruoyan was deeply in love with Liemo. If Liemo were to die he would bear a deep grudge against Yunruoyan. This wasn't the outcome Thunderclap wanted. He's not dead, not dead, Steward Hu hurriedly replied. Don't worry, second young master, he won't die. Only then did Thunderclap lean back into his chair. If he's still unconscious, get him a physician. His life must be spared. Yes, your servant obeys. The bearded manager said, then, second young master, can I start now? Begin. Thunderclap waved his hand. Next, it was time to record everyone's names and register them as slaves. Then, everyone was given an identity token. This token is very important, the bearded man began. From now on, this token will symbolize your status. From now on, you're all slaves of the Thunderclap family. The bearded man's tone was as if he were talking about something very honorable. Zhuifeng held a black wooden token in his hand. On it was a realistic carving of a hamster crawling on all fours on the ground. This was why they were called hamsters. On the Heiyuan continent they were akin to hamsters. Damn it, the burly man with teeth marks on his neck raised his hand and was about to smash the token on the ground. The fatty grabbed his hand. Oh, hey, don't be rash. Hey, listen to the fatty, Shuijie added. Only then did the burly man called Hey suppress his anger and stop himself from smashing the hamster token. Zhuifeng's grip on the token grew tighter and tighter, as if he were about to shatter it. Just then Su Bei's voice rang out by his ear. Before you're strong enough, you must learn to be tactful and reserved. Zhuifeng slowly loosened his grip on the token. If I'm not strong enough, I must learn to be tactful and reserved, he muttered to himself. For the past 2 days Yunruoyan had been staying with the troop at the inn. Auntie Hong and Hoodlum had been leaving early and returning late these past few days. Xiaoqing had said that they were out looking for business. Yunruoyan asked what kind of business it was. Although Yunruoyan knew about the existence of geishas, she didn't know much about what they did. As a result, after Yunruoyan asked this question, she would be dragged out of bed by Qing every morning before dawn to train. There were more than 20 women who played the flute, played the piano, sang and danced. Each of them had their own unique skills. Xiaoqing was a dancer, so Yunruoyan naturally learned from her. Yunruoyan knew martial arts, so dancing wasn't a problem for her. After a few tries, Xiaoqing was impressed by Yunruoyan's talent, and said that the next performance would be the finale. That morning Yunruoyan had just finished training with Qing and was about to return to her room. As she passed by Hoodlum's house, she suddenly saw a faint light coming from the crack of the door. Yunruoyan lightened her footsteps and walked to the window. She poked a hole with her finger and peered inside. She saw Hoodlum sitting on his bed, cultivating his spiritual energy in the morning. Cultivators usually cultivated their spiritual energy in the morning, but Hoodlum's cultivation method was something Yunruoyan had never seen before. She was sitting cross-legged on her bed, and a white stone that glowed with spiritual energy was flying around her. Yunruoyan could feel large amounts of spiritual energy emanating from the stone, directly absorbed by Hoodlum's body, and then converging in her spiritual vortex. A spirit crystal. This is a spirit crystal. Yunruoyan exclaimed inwardly. She heard footsteps in front of her, and Yunruoyan quickly walked away from Hoodlum's room. Little bunny, what are you doing? It's time for breakfast. Xiaoqing's figure appeared around the corner and called out to Yunruoyan. Hey, I'm coming. Yunruoyan hurriedly ran toward Xiaoqing. After breakfast, Yunruoyan had nothing else to do, so she began cultivating in her room. Ever since she'd been injured, she hadn't slacked off in her cultivation in the slightest. However, the results had been minimal, and her cultivation had always been limited to that of a 6th-rank blade master. If Liemo were to cultivate with her, perhaps the results would be better, Yunruoyan thought. Mistress, the sword's reacting. Just as Yunruoyan thought of Liemo, Xiuqiu's voice rang out in her mind. Yunruoyan immediately closed her eyes and sent her mental energy into the pocket dimension. Sure enough, the sword that had been glowing faintly in the pocket dimension was now glowing brightly, as if it had regained its former luster. That's great. Liemo's healed. Yunruoyan exclaimed excitedly. In the afternoon, Hoodlum came to find Yunruoyan, telling her that he'd found some business and would be performing in a few days. As such, he needed to buy some necessities and had Xuanhuan accompany him on the streets. Xuanhuan had been wanting to visit the city lord's manor for the past few days, but hadn't found an opportunity. During the day the streets were bustling with activity, and by the time they reached the downtown area, it was even a little crowded. Xuanhuan was easily pushed away from Hoodlum by the crowd. She squeezed out of the crowd and found someone to ask for directions to the city lord's mansion. Then, without stopping, she rushed in the direction of the city lord's mansion. In just an hour, Xuanhuan had traversed 4 streets and arrived at the manor's main entrance. There were 4 high-ranking warriors standing by the entrance, and it would be almost impossible to enter through the main entrance. As Xuanhuan walked along the outer walls of the manor, she had Xiaoqiu communicate with Liemo through her mental energy. It didn't take long for Xiaoqiu to connect with Liemo. However, because of Xuanhuan's cultivation, Xiaoqiu's mental energy was also restricted, so Xiaoqiu couldn't communicate with Liemo for long. Liemo only had time to send a message to Xiaoqiu before the two of them lost contact. "How did it go, Xiaoqiu?" Xuanhuan asked anxiously. "Mistress, I managed to contact Liemo," Xiaoqiu replied. "But we lost contact very quickly. However, Liemo said that he'd have Emo deliver a letter to us in a while." After about 15 minutes, Emo flew out of the manor and landed on Xuanhuan's shoulder. It opened its mouth, and a scroll of paper landed in Xuanhuan's palm. Xuanhuan unfurled the scroll and saw the familiar handwriting. Her heart, which had been hanging by a thread for so many days, finally relaxed. In the letter, Liemo informed Xuanhuan of the current situation in the manor. He also told her that Zhui Feng was with him, and that Xuanhuan didn't need to worry and that she should wait for him. Once he found an opportunity to rescue Qin Feng, he would reunite with her. Liemo also said that Emo should follow Xuanhuan. Liemo's opponents were all so powerful that Emo couldn't deal with them, and it wouldn't be of much use by Liemo's side. "Just follow me," Xuanhuan instructed Emo. "I just happen to need you." When Xuanhuan returned to the relay station, Xiaoqing was anxiously looking for someone to look for her. When she saw Xuanhuan walk into the relay station, she flew into a rage. "Where did you go? How could you lose track of someone?" Xiaoqing scolded Xuanhuan. "I'm sorry, Sister Qingqing. There were too many people and I got separated from Sister Ah Fei." Xuanhuan lowered her head, as if she had done something wrong and was willing to accept her punishment. When little Qing saw her like this, the anger that was born from her anxiety also dissipated. "Are you hungry? How did you find me?" Xiaoqing asked. "I asked everyone on the way back," Xuanhuan replied pitifully. "All right, it's good that you're back. Everyone disperse." Auntie Hong stood by the railing on the 2nd floor. "The day after tomorrow we'll be going to the Zhang Manor to liven things up. Everyone make sure to arrange your performances well." "Yes, Auntie Hong," the crowd replied. After lunch and a short break, Xuanhuan and Xiaoqing began to rehearse. Xiaoqing asked Xuanhuan to dance with her. The rehearsal continued after dinner, and it wasn't until everyone was exhausted that they finally returned to their rooms to rest. Xuanhuan, however, didn't rest. She waited for Murphy. Not long after, it flew in through the gap in the window, holding a stone that glowed with a white spiritual light. "Good job, Murphy," Xuanhuan praised. As it turned out, Xuanhuan had Murphy sneak into Ah Fei's room and use its demonic voice to knock him out. Then it had borrowed her spirit stone. The reason why she said it was borrowed, not stolen, was because Xuanhuan would still have to return it after using it. Xuanhuan checked that all the doors and windows were shut tight, and that there was no one nearby, before sitting cross-legged on her bed and beginning to cultivate. She had only seen an image of Ah Fei cultivating, but she didn't know exactly how he did it, much less how he started cultivating. If she didn't know, she would have to start by experimenting. Xuanhuan placed the spirit stone in front of her and injected her spiritual energy into it, but it didn't seem to have any effect. Xuanhuan held the spirit stone in her palms, then placed it in the middle of her palms. Spiritual energy flowed through her palms and through the spirit stone, forming a cycle within her body. After 2 cycles, Xuanhuan could feel a large amount of spiritual energy seeping out of the spirit stone. As soon as she let go, the spirit stone began to revolve around her, just as it had done in the morning. As it flew, it released spiritual energy around Xuanhuan's body. This spiritual energy was so pure that Xuanhuan only needed to absorb it a little, and it would flow through her meridians and into her spiritual vortex. All of a sudden, Xuanhuan's bottleneck, which had been hampering her cultivation for so long, was broken. For hours later Yun Ruoyan opened her eyes. Her spiritual vortex had been replenished. Yun Ruoyan stretched out her hand and called out in her heart, "Qi Tong, come." A scarlet light appeared in her hand. "I've finally recovered my 8th rank cultivation." Yun Ruoyan let out a long breath. She could finally escape without burdening Li Mo. Chapter 353. Yun Ruoyan had Mo return the spirit stones, then she lay down and had her first good night's sleep since entering the abyss. The next day she practiced her dance as usual. The day passed quickly, and it was finally time to perform at the Zhang Manor. Early in the morning Yun Ruoyan followed the procession to the back door of the Zhang Manor. Regardless of which continent, geishas were of low status, and they didn't even have the right to enter through the front door. The procession entered through the back door and hurriedly put on their makeup and costumes in preparation for the upcoming performance. Yun Ruoyan followed little Qing as she methodically prepared for her performance. "Is my lipstick smudged?" Little Qing asked Yun Ruoyan. "No." Yun Ruoyan looked at it. "Bruise?" "No." "Eyebrows?" "No." Because there weren't enough mirrors in the crowd, little Qing used Yun Ruoyan as a mirror. "Little bunny, aren't you scared or nervous?" Little Qing asked Yun Ruoyan. "Scared of what?" Yun Ruoyan replied blankly. "Aren't you nervous about going on stage?" Little Qing looked incredulous. "This is your first time on stage but you're not scared or nervous at all. You're really born for this line of work." Yun Ruoyan had no response to little Qing's words. Compared to a rain of blood and swords, dancing in front of a crowd really wasn't that big of a deal. Little Qing was only around 20 years old, a decade younger than Yun Ruoyan's mental age. However, she had taken care of Yun Ruoyan like a younger sister, and Yun Ruoyan was quite touched. "Little Qing," Yun Ruoyan suddenly called out. "Oh?" Little Qing paused for a moment before responding. "What is it, bunny?" "My name is Yun Ruoyan," Yun Ruoyan replied. "Yun Ruoyan." Little Qing repeated the name and smiled. "What a good name. Bunny, let's stop fooling around. We're about to go on stage." Yun Ruoyan and Little Qing were next to go on stage. As soon as the two of them stepped onto the stage, Yun Ruoyan saw a familiar face in the crowd. The mustache steward was currently drinking and chatting with the head of the Zhang family, and didn't have the time to look up at the stage. Even so, Yun Ruoyan was still very careful, lowering her head to avoid facing the audience. Qing thought that Yun Ruoyan was suddenly having stage fright. She's still young after all. Even if she's afraid, she'll only understand it when it's right in front of her. The dance finally ended, but the mustached man didn't notice Yun Ruoyan. "How dare you say you're not afraid? Look, your cold sweat has ruined your makeup." Xiaoqing smiled as she wiped her face. Only then did Yun Ruoyan realize that she had put on heavy makeup, so the man with the mustache might not be able to recognize her. "Ah, Sister Qingqing, my stomach hurts." Yun Ruoyan clutched her stomach. "I need to go to the bathroom." "Then why aren't you going?" Amidst little Qing's laughter, Yun Ruoyan clutched her stomach and ran backstage. As soon as she ran out of the backstage area, she straightened her back. Just then a maid passed by and Yun Ruoyan walked up to her. "Sister, where's the toilet?" Yun Ruoyan pretended not to understand the direction that the maid had given her. She pulled on the maid's hand and pointed the way for her. When they reached a corner, Yun Ruoyan lightly tapped the back of the maid's neck. The maid's body softened and she fell into Yun Ruoyan's embrace. Yun Ruoyan changed into the maid's clothes and blended into the crowd of guests below the stage, standing behind the mustached man. "Housekeeper Hu, the mine I'm in charge of is in urgent need of manpower. You'll have to send this batch of slaves to me," the patriarch of the Zhang family said. Just now, when Yun Ruoyan was dancing on stage, she overheard the two of them talking about slaves. "That's easy. Let me tell you, among the slaves this time, there are a few experts that can be sent to the depths of the mine to mine. However, experts aren't easy to manage, so it'll be up to you to make them work obediently," the mustached man said. "Of course, don't worry, Housekeeper Hu. My whip isn't to be trifled with. Tomorrow, a batch of slaves will be sent over to you. They've just arrived from a low-tier continent, and they're all strong and healthy," the mustached man said. "That's good. Thank you, brother." The patriarch of the Fong family smiled. "Housekeeper Hu, what do you think of the singer? Do you want me to find two of them to serve you like this?" "Ah, in that case I'll do as you say." After discussing the slaves, the two of them began to tease each other. Once again Yun Ruoyan retreated from the crowd. Could the newest batch of slaves from a low-tier continent be Li Mo and the others? "It looks like I'll have to go to the city lord's manor to take a look tomorrow." When Yun Ruoyan returned from the Zhang manor, she had Mo. send a letter to Li Mo, telling him about what he had heard, hoping to find out how things were progressing on his end. However, wasn't able to find Li Mo, who was currently investigating the city lord's manor. Over the past few days, Li Mo had turned the manor upside down, but he still hadn't found any trace of Qin Feng. Li Mo had used all sorts of methods to obtain the location of all the dungeons, water dungeons and dark dungeons within the manor, and then he began to investigate them one by one. 2 or 3 days passed without any results, and there were still no results today. However, his investigation had narrowed down to the last 2 dungeons. If Qin Feng hadn't been sent out of the manor, then he must be in one of these 2 dungeons. Didn't find Li Mo, nor did he send the letter. Not receiving a reply from Li Mo, Xuanhuan grew more and more anxious. She decided to go to the city lord's manor the next day. With Thunderbolt's permission, Li Mo and Lin Qingqian moved out of their dungeons and began living in the woodshed. Zhuo Yifeng and Lin Qingxue remained in their dungeons. In order to prevent Thunderbolt from recognizing Zhuo Yifeng, Lin Qingqian had disguised half his face with a fake birthmark, just like Xuanhuan's. Indeed, Thunderbolt hadn't recognized him after seeing him several times. Otherwise, he would have dismembered the man who had strangled his neck with a bow. Before dawn the next day, before the prisoners had even woken up from their slumber, a few warriors came to wake them up and chase them out of their dungeons. "Where are you chasing us to?" Old Sable asked. With a crack of the whip, Lao Hei's body was hit. "Wherever I tell you to go. What's with all this nonsense?" The warrior with the whip chided. Before the prisoners could react, they were chased out of the manor's back door and into the caged carriages that had been prepared in advance. Zhuo Yifeng and Lin Qingxue entered the same carriage. With another crack of the whip, 5 carriages carrying more than 50 prisoners began to move toward the west. Xuanhuan quietly watched all of this from a corner of the back door. Afraid that she would miss them, she had been waiting there in the middle of the night, and she had finally made it in time. In the second carriage from the back, Xuanhuan could clearly see that Zhuo Yifeng and Lin Qingxue were inside. Zhuo Yifeng's disguise was one of Xuanhuan's most common tricks, and it naturally wouldn't fool her. Xuanhuan didn't see Li Mo or Lin Qingqian, and she guessed that they had been left behind in the city lord's manor. With Li Mo around, Xuanhuan didn't have to worry about Lin Qingqian, but Zhuo Yifeng and Lin Qingxue might be taken to some kind of mine. After a moment's consideration, Xuanhuan decided to save Zhuo Yifeng and Lin Qingxue first. As a result, she followed the caravan out of Thunderbolt City, hoping to find an opportunity to rescue the 2 of them on the way. Li Mo and Lin Qingqian didn't know what had happened that morning. Li Mo spent the entire night investigating, and only returned to his woodshed at daybreak. Just as he lay down, the door was kicked open and 2 drunken men walked in. These 2 men were none other than Thunderbolt and Thunderbolt. Because their brother, Thunderbolt Rock, had been killed by Li Mo, they had asked Thunderbolt's son to execute Li Mo as revenge. However, Thunderbolt's son had rejected them outright. Not only that, Thunderbolt's son had even gotten Li Mo out of his cell and treated his wounds. This made the 2 brothers extremely dissatisfied. Over the past few days, no matter where or when, as long as they were unhappy, they would come looking for trouble with Li Mo. Although they didn't dare to kill him, they did beat him up. Li Mo was pretending that he hadn't fully recovered, so he couldn't retaliate, nor could he use spiritual energy to protect himself. All he could do was endure the blows. Over the past few days, his body was riddled with injuries. "You're sleeping so soundly. Wake up." Thunderbolt tipped the flask of wine in his hand at Li Mo, spilling the contents all over him. "My brother's killer is absolutely irreconcilable." Thunderbolt was also swaying unsteadily from the alcohol. "But my enemy is right in front of me and I can't kill him." "If you can't kill him, then beat him until he's better off dead than alive." The 2 men dragged Li Mo from the wooden bed to the ground and began kicking him violently. Li Mo protected his vitals and didn't move or make a sound. Both of them felt as if they weren't beating a person, but rather a piece of wood. There was no joy in beating someone up at all. The 2 of them were tired of fighting and felt that there was no meaning in fighting anymore, so they both stopped. "You're not afraid of being beaten, and you're not afraid of death. I don't believe there's nothing you're not afraid of." "There's one thing he's afraid of," Thunderbolt said. "What?" "A woman," Thunderbolt continued. Lily continued, "Do you still remember that day when this bastard let a woman go? That woman was definitely his lover or relative, and she was definitely someone very important to him." Right, Thunderbolt hurriedly added. "When he was fighting with brother, that woman was watching coldly from the sidelines." "Let me think." Thunderbolt slapped his head. "I remember now. The second young master called her Xuanhuan, and I even saw a portrait of her. I remember too, Thunderbolt added. Her name was Xuanhuan and she was quite pretty. How would she taste compared to the girls in the brothels? As soon as Thunderbolt said this, Li Mo's eyes, which were hidden beneath his arms, shot out a murderous glare. Who cares what she tastes like? Once we catch her, kill her, and let this bastard have a taste of losing a loved one. That won't do. Wouldn't that be a waste? I'll have to make sure she's in pain. Thunderbolt only got half of his sentence out before the other half was forever stuck in his throat. At some point, Li Mo had stood up, and one of his hands had pierced through Thunderbolt's back and out of his chest. Thunderbolt's heart was in Li Mo's hand. Thunderbolt was stunned by the scene in front of him. By the time he reacted and opened his mouth, an icicle had pierced through his mouth and out of the back of his head. Chapter 354. Xuanhuan followed the convoy westward for many days, but she still couldn't find an opportunity to rescue them. There were a total of 4 warriors in the convoy, each of them at least 9th rank blade master. Xuanhuan was only an 8th rank blade master, and fighting them would be like throwing an egg against a rock. She didn't have a better idea, so she could only follow them and search for an opportunity. During the afternoon break, one of the coachmen left the convoy to relieve himself and was drugged by Xuanhuan's bewitching powder. From him, Xuanhuan learned the location of their destination, the largest spirit crystal mine in the Li family's territory. They were only 2 days away from their destination, and Xuanhuan couldn't help but feel a little anxious. Once they reached their destination, there would be even less of an opportunity to rescue them. That night, Xuanhuan once again stealthily approached the convoy. For safety reasons, she had been following them from a distance, only occasionally checking on Lin Qingxue and Zhuo Yifeng in the dead of the night. The carriage was currently parked on a small path in the middle of a valley, and the coachman and 4 warriors were eating meat and drinking wine by a bonfire. Xuanhuan watched them from atop a small hill to the south. If her cultivation were higher than these warriors, she would be able to refine a bewitching powder that would be effective against them. As Xuanhuan watched them eat and drink, she began to wonder if she could find an opportunity to poison them. Over the past few nights, Xuanhuan had refined quite a few poisons, all of which she had stored in her pocket dimension. In Xiuqiu's words, it wouldn't be a problem for these 9th rank blade masters to be poisoned to death. The problem was how to poison them. Xuanhuan had considered having Imo, or do it, but not only was the bird a glutton, but it was also a bully. In the face of danger it would always retreat. In the end she had to rely on herself. Xuanhuan sighed inwardly as she looked down once more. Suddenly a gaze shot up from below, meeting Xuanhuan's gaze. Xuanhuan's heart skipped a beat, and she immediately sensed danger. She exited her hiding place without hesitation, and then flew in the opposite direction on her sword. The owner of that gaze, a long-faced, wretched-looking man, immediately chased after Xuanhuan on his sword. A 9th rank blade master could easily overwhelm an 8th rank blade master in terms of speed. Fortunately, the Scarlet Eye was a top-notch sword that doubled her original flying speed. Even so, she still wasn't able to shake off the warrior, and was only able to maintain a certain distance between her and him. The warrior chased Xuanhuan all the way into the middle of the night. Xuanhuan's spiritual energy began to run out, and the warrior finally caught up to her. "Lass, don't run." The warrior's wretched voice reached her ears through spiritual energy. "You won't be able to escape from me, ha ha ha." The laughter grew louder and louder, and Xuanhuan's speed grew slower and slower. A red sword light flashed by Xuanhuan's side. Xuanhuan suddenly stopped, because the path in front of her was blocked by the long-faced warrior. Realizing that she couldn't escape, Xuanhuan landed on the ground, saving some spiritual energy. "How's that? I told you you won't be able to escape. Don't be afraid, I'm very protective of you." The long-faced warrior landed with Xuanhuan, standing less than 30 feet away from her. In the darkness of the night, Xuanhuan's wolf-like eyes stared straight at the long-faced warrior. She had quite a deep impression of him. Xuanhuan had seen him grope Lin Qingxue more than once, and Zhuo Yifeng had even been beaten up by him in order to protect Lin Qingxue. "Actually, I've been paying attention to you for a long time. You've been following us for a few days, haven't you?" The long-faced warrior looked at Xuanhuan calmly. "But you're quite alert. I tried to get close to you several times, but you always managed to escape in time. I thought you'd be able to keep your cool, but this time I finally managed to catch you." As he spoke, the long-faced man looked up and down Xuanhuan's body. "You female hamsters are much more petite and adorable than the women of the Dark Abyss continent. I like soft ones like you, and they're easier to digest." Xuanhuan sneered. Be careful not to break your front teeth. You're a little chilly, the long-faced man laughed. I'm coming right now. As soon as the long-faced man finished speaking, he waved his hand at Xuanhuan, and a dozen or so fireballs flew toward her. These fireballs spun rapidly in the air, and the heat they brought with them rushed toward Xuanhuan's face. Like Xuanhuan, the long-faced man cultivated a fire elemental external technique. Although he looked wretched on the outside, his attacks were extremely vicious, and he had no intention of holding back at all. Xuanhuan was forced to retreat rapidly. As she retreated, she waved the scarlet eye in her hand, deflecting the fireballs with great difficulty. You're quite quick on the uptake, girl. The man also quickly stepped forward. As he waved his hand and performed a technique, he said, "Take this move of mine." Another dozen or so medium-sized fireballs flew toward Xuanhuan. Xuanhuan used a fireball technique of her own, and a dozen or so smaller fireballs, each half the size of the fireballs in front of her, were instantly swallowed. Xuanhuan continued to retreat, buying time as she drew circles in front of her with her scarlet eye. The circle formed a wall of fire in front of Xuanhuan. Qi Tong possessed his own spiritual fire, and the power of this spiritual fire was incomparable to that of a normal spiritual technique. Xuanhuan was trying to use fire to counter fire. As expected, the fireballs were blocked by the wall of fire, and then swallowed by the scarlet eye. What a powerful spiritual sword! The long-faced man's face revealed a greedy expression, and an evil thought surfaced in his mind. Once he captured Xuanhuan and did what he wanted, he would kill her and take the scarlet eye for his own. Then don't blame me for being ruthless. The long-faced man turned his hand and took out a long spear. Then he threw the spearhead in the air, and a flame rose above the spearhead. Then the long-faced man stabbed at Xuanhuan. Xuanhuan used the scarlet eye to block the tip of the spear, but the flaming spearhead was like a fish in water, unusually cunning. Xuanhuan's scarlet eye couldn't even touch the tip of the spear. Not only was the long-faced man's cultivation high, but he was also skilled with the spear. Xuanhuan's clothes were set ablaze by the spearhead, and she could only retreat while using the scarlet eye to protect her vitals with one hand and the other to extinguish the flames on her body. Although the long-faced man wanted to kill Xuanhuan, he was still greedy for her beauty, so he held back. Xuanhuan could see this from his undisguised lustful gaze, so she stopped dodging and began to counterattack. Sure enough, the long-faced warrior began to hesitate, and Xuanhuan found an opening to dodge the spearhead. Holding scarlet eye in her hand, she quickly stabbed it toward the man's chest. The long-faced man was also shocked and hurriedly turned around to block. He used all his strength to block Xuanhuan's arm with the end of the spear. Xuanhuan's arm loosened and the scarlet eye was about to fall, but she quickly stretched out her other hand and slapped at the end of the scarlet eye. Xuanhuan had used all her strength in this attack, and the scarlet eye transformed into a streak of light that shot toward the long-faced warrior's face. The long-faced warrior's eyes widened, and he hurriedly dodged to the side, allowing the scarlet eye to cut right through his nose. Ah! The long-faced man screamed in pain as he covered his nose. When he removed his hand, half of his burnt nose fell to his hand, and the nose on his face was also charred. His face was long to begin with, and without a nose, it was no different from a pig's kidney. His entire face looked strange and comical. "Damned girl, how dare you ruin my face? I'll kill you." When the long-faced man looked at Xuanhuan again, his murderous intent was at its peak. Xuanhuan's right hand was injured, and she couldn't hold her sword. The scarlet eye flew back to her left hand, and she held it horizontally in front of her, completely on guard. Die. The long-faced man's spear stabbed toward Xuanhuan, and when Xuanhuan blocked it with her sword, the spear easily knocked the scarlet eye away from her hand. Just like that, the spearhead pierced into Xuanhuan's chest. Fortunately, the long-faced man didn't want to take Xuanhuan's life immediately, and he extinguished the spiritual fire at the tip of the spear in time. Xuanhuan was forced back by the spear, and then the long-faced man raised his face and lifted Xuanhuan into the air. A large amount of blood flowed down the spear and onto the long-faced man's hand. The long-faced man became even more excited, and he threw Xuanhuan into the air. The severe pain and excessive blood loss caused Xuanhuan to faint several times. With a bang, Xuanhuan fell heavily to the ground, and her small body curled up in pain. The long-faced man walked to Xuanhuan's side and kicked her fiercely with his foot. Xuanhuan's small face was scrunched up, but it didn't lose her beauty in the slightest. Her chest was dyed red with a large amount of blood, and her whole person presented a tragic beauty. This made the long-faced man even more excited, and he kicked the wound on Xuanhuan's chest again. Xuanhuan's whole body was numb from the pain, and her mind was blank because of the extreme pain. The blood was like water from a broken dam, gurgling out of Xuanhuan's wound. Xuanhuan felt as if the blood on her body was about to run dry. So much blood. At this moment, the long-faced man's face showed a perverted look. I'm going to pierce your heart and watch you bleed dry. The long-faced man pointed the spear in his hand at Xuanhuan's heart and slowly raised it. Child, I'm the only one who can save you now. At this time, a voice suddenly sounded in Xuanhuan's blank mind. It was the demonic eye that Xuanhuan had deliberately suppressed. The demonic dragon chief elder left me in your body to protect your life, but this remnant of my consciousness can only protect you 3 times. I've already used it twice. Not getting a response from Xuanhuan, the voice continued, Child, you must recognize your mission and remember that you have the bloodline of the demonic dragon. Go to hell. The long-faced man shouted and stabbed the spearhead toward Xuanhuan's chest. However, the spearhead was blocked by a scarlet light that suddenly gushed out of Xuanhuan's heart. Chapter 355. What's going on? The long-faced man exclaimed in surprise. He found that the scarlet light had a strange power that made the spear in his hand unable to move forward at all. However, he couldn't pull the spear out of the red light. He couldn't even abandon the spear and leave. He was strangely fixed in place. At the same time, a strange change occurred in Xuanhuan's mind. In her originally blank mind, a book appeared out of thin air. Xuanhuan remembered that this book was the one that Liemo had shown her. At the same time, Xuanhuan also had a wordless book that looked exactly the same. The book floated in Xuanhuan's mind, and then the pages automatically flipped open. A blank page appeared in front of Xuanhuan. Just as Xuanhuan was puzzled, words gradually appeared on the page. Xuanhuan looked at them one by one and gradually remembered that this was the content of the divine dragon technique that she had read before. The originally difficult content was now clear at a glance. This is the highest technique of my demonic dragon clan. What you're seeing now is the part you saw before, which is the technique for cultivating spiritual energy, the demonic eye continued. Originally, this technique should be cultivated only after you've reached the peak of your cultivation, but at this critical moment, I'll leave you a trace of the divine dragon's power to help you cultivate this technique. As soon as the demonic eye finished speaking, Xuanhuan felt a warm power flow through her body, and her numb body finally felt again. Child, you're on your own. The demon eye uttered one last word before disappearing forever. The long-faced warrior was trying his best to pull out the spearhead in his hand. The crimson light suddenly disappeared without warning, and he stumbled back a long way before stabilizing himself. By this time Xuanhuan had already stood up. Her entire body was wrapped in a faint red light, and the divine dragon's power was rapidly healing her wounds. The wound on her chest was no longer bleeding, and small black scales gradually grew from the flesh around the wound to cover it. On her face, forehead, arms and legs, small black scales grew on all the places where the skin was broken and bleeding. What kind of monster are you? The long-faced man cried out in horror. I'm not a monster. Xuanhuan opened her eyes, which had also turned crimson. I'm not a monster. I'm a human who specializes in killing monsters. Qitong. Come back. Xuanhuan stretched out her right hand and Qitong, which had fallen to the ground some distance away, glowed brightly and flew back into her hand. With a flip of her hand, Xuanhuan kept Qitong. No matter what kind of monster you are, I'm going to kill you today. The long-faced warrior once again thrust his flaming spear toward Xuanhuan. Xuanhuan waved her hand in front of her, and a scarlet flaming whip appeared in her hand. Like a spirit snake, the whip wrapped itself around the long-faced man's spear, and the spear's handle quickly turned a scarlet red. The scorching temperature forced the long-faced man to let go of his hand, and then he summoned the spirit sword without hesitation. A red light flashed under his feet, and his whole body rose into the air. His speed of escape was not slow at all. Xuanhuan waved her hand in the direction that the long-faced man had fled, and the whip sent the scarlet spear flying. Then, like a sword, she chased after the long-faced man. Arg! A tragic cry rang out in the dark plains. The spear had pierced through the long-faced man's heart. The long-faced warrior fell from mid-air and landed on the ground with a thud. He was dead. The red light gradually disappeared from Xuanhuan's body, and her eyes returned to their original black color. She immediately sat down cross-legged and began cultivating according to the contents of the art of the divine dragon in her mind. After Liemo had killed Pai Li and Pai Hua, he tossed their corpses into the pond in the manner then returned to the woodshed and continued sleeping as if nothing had happened. At daybreak, Lin Qingchen came to treat Li Mo's wounds. During this period of time, Li Mo had been injured every day, and no one had stopped her from treating his wounds. The two of them had been able to communicate with each other. Master Mo, as Lin Qingchen treated Li Mo's wounds, she reported, Qingxue and Zhui Yifeng were taken away this morning. Li Mo frowned. Do you know where they've been taken? According to the servants in the manor, they've been taken to a spirit crystal mine, but it's hard to say which one. I understand, Li Mo replied. You can make some preparations. We'll be leaving the city lord's manor in the next few days. As night fell, Li Mo drifted out of the woodshed in the dead of the night, evading all the guards as he made his way to the prison cell he was looking for. The first cell was empty, and Li Mo headed to the second. There was someone locked inside, but it wasn't Qin Feng. Could it be that Qin Feng isn't in the city lord's manor at all? Li Mo thought to himself as he lay on the bed in the woodshed. Could he have been sent to the spirit crystal mine as well? Li Mo felt that Qin Feng had most likely been sent to do hard labor, so he decided to leave with Lin Qingchen immediately. Because Li Mo had informed Lin Qingchen beforehand, Lin Qingchen wasn't surprised when Li Mo suddenly appeared, and the two of them immediately prepared to leave the city lord's manor. By this time, the sky was already beginning to brighten, and Li Mo and Lin Qingchen were heading toward the city lord's manor. Although Lin Qingchen could carry Li Mo on her sword, there were many experts in the city lord's manor, and the two of them didn't dare take the risk. Just as the two of them evaded a pair of patrolling guards and approached the city lord's manor, the originally quiet manor suddenly became noisy. The city lord is back and the young city lord is back. Everyone be alert and patrol, the guard ordered. Don't let even a mosquito fly around. Yes. The guards replied in unison. Li Mo frowned. The sky was already bright, and it would be far too difficult for the two of them to escape from so many experts. Master Mo, why don't we leave tonight? Lin Qingchen suggested. Li Mo nodded, agreeing to her suggestion. As soon as Li Mo returned to the woodshed, someone came to summon him. Li Mo followed the person to the main hall of the manor, where there were 3 people seated in the main seat and one to the side. The one on the right was Pai Yang and the one on the left was Pai Badian. Needless to say, the one in the main seat was the head of the Pai family, Pai City Lord Pai Yen. What surprised Li Mo was that Pai Yen and Pai Badian looked like they had been cast from the same mold, except that Pai Badian was dressed in bright red, while Pai Yen was dressed in a dark red. You're the gopher who trespassed on my Pai family's beast hunting grounds? Thunderflame glanced coolly at Li Mo. Li Mo had completely retracted his aura, concealing his cultivation. Pai Badian had told him that Li Mo had the highest cultivation of any gopher he'd ever met. Even without the help of spirit crystals, he'd managed to reach the realm of a sword saint at such a young age. With the help of spirit crystals, his cultivation would soar at an unimaginable rate. Such a talent was a terrifying existence, and if one couldn't subdue such a person, the only option was to kill him before he matured. Li Mo stared at Thunderflame coldly. Even he couldn't detect Thunderflame's cultivation. Since Pai Badian's cultivation is around 2nd level, then this Thunderflame must be stronger than him, Li Mo deduced. At the very least, he's a 3rd-level swordmaster. Lin Qingchen was brought into the hall to stand by Li Mo's side. I heard you've lost your cultivation? Pai Yen stood up from his seat and walked over to Li Mo. Yes. I don't believe you. Pai Yen punched Li Mo in the chest, knocking him back a few steps and causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood. Before Li Mo could straighten his back, Thunderflame's other punch came, this one aimed at Li Mo's head and imbued with spiritual energy. If it landed on Li Mo's head, even if he didn't die, he'd be crippled. However, Li Mo had no intention of resisting. Thunderflame's fist stopped inches from Li Mo's head. It looks like you've really lost your cultivation. Pai Yen retracted his fist and turned to Lin Qingchen, pointing at Li Mo. Who is he to you? Instructor, Lin Qingchen replied. Lin Qingchen replied. Just as Lin Qingchen finished speaking, her neck fell into a firm hand. That hand then slowly tightened and Lin Qingchen gradually couldn't breathe. Her face also turned ashen, and it looked like she was about to be strangled to death. Stop! Li Mo shouted. If you want her to live, save her or she'll die. She's just a slave, Pai Yen replied coolly. Li Mo's expression was solemn. He suddenly waved a hand and a row of blue icicles shot toward Pai Yen. You're really faking it. Pai Yen's voice rang out. Li Mo had long since known that Pai Yen was testing him, but he couldn't leave Lin Qingchen in the lurch. After all, she was his closest relative. Thunderflame easily dispelled Li Mo's icicles with a wave of his sleeves, allowing Li Mo to appear in front of Thunderflame in a flash, grabbing an ice sword out of thin air and thrusting it at Thunderflame. Thunderous Flame grabbed the ice sword with his bare hands, broke it in half, and stabbed the remaining half of the sword into Li Mo's shoulder. Then he struck Li Mo's chest, causing him to spit out another mouthful of blood. His legs gave way and he collapsed to the ground. All of this had happened in the blink of an eye. Even Lin Qingqian, who was the closest to Li Mo, hadn't seen what had happened. All they knew was that Li Mo's shoulder had been injured and he'd fallen to the ground. Pai Yin let go of Lin Qingqian's neck and returned to his seat. Lin Qingqian was also slumped to the ground, panting heavily. Not only is this rat cunning, but he's also very patient and persistent, Pai Yin continued. It won't be easy to subdue him. Father, if it were an easy task, I wouldn't be interested in doing it. Thunderbolt Badian looked at the heavily injured Li Mo, his eyes gleaming with interest. Chapter 356. Alright, since that's the case, we'll spare his life, but we'll have to keep him in check, Thunderflame said. I understand, Thunderflame replied respectfully, then turned to his subordinates. Send him to the prison. Father. Thunderflame stood up and said unhappily, I was the one who caught that ice face. Why did you give him to brother? That horse is too fierce for you to handle, Thunderflame said. You can have the woman. Li Mo was carried all the way to a secret cell where he was thrown into it. Li Mo, is that you? After an unknown period of time, a familiar voice rang out beside Li Mo's ear. Li Mo opened his eyes and saw that the person squatting beside him was none other than the person he had been searching for, Qin Feng. Qin Feng, Li Mo called out, then coughed twice. You're injured. Qin Feng helped Li Mo sit up against the wall. I'm fine, Li Mo replied. Thunderflame's cultivation is truly unfathomable. I didn't even have the strength to fight back. Fortunately, he didn't kill me. Although Thunderflame hadn't killed Li Mo, he had injured his heart meridian. Li Mo's spatial ring had been taken away, and without spiritual medicine to aid him, it would take some time for his heart meridian to heal on its own. It's good that I've found you. There'll always be a chance to get out, Li Mo said as he scanned the surroundings. Indeed, Li Mo hadn't explored this cell before. There was actually a secret dungeon here. This cell is beneath Thunderflames, Qin Feng explained. But he rarely comes down here. Usually, only those who deliver food will come down here, and that's only once every 3 or 4 days. While a meal every 3 or 4 days was nothing to Li Mo, who didn't need to eat, Qin Feng was in a constant state of hunger, and he didn't even have the energy to cultivate. Li Mo's gaze swept across the room before landing on a corner of the wall. There was a person lying there, silent and lifeless, as if he were a dead person. Who is he? Li Mo asked. I don't know, Qin Feng replied. Qin Feng replied, when I first came in I thought he was a dead man. He usually doesn't move and only occasionally gets up to eat when the food is served. After that, he goes back to lie down and doesn't say a word. They must be criminals like us. Li Mo nodded, averting his gaze from the cowering figure. Li Mo, why are you alone? Where's Xuanhuan and Zhuifeng? Didn't they come with you? Yes. There were a total of 30 students who came together, but they were all separated. Right now there's only you, me, and a student named Lin Qingqian in the manor. Ah. Qin Feng sighed. Just as he was about to speak, he heard a very small voice coming from the corner of the wall. Qin Feng shut his mouth and gave Li Mo a meaningful look before both of their gazes landed on the figure in the corner of the room. That figure was the source of the small voice. The voice grew louder and louder. Perhaps because he hadn't spoken for a long time, his voice was hoarse and strange, but Li Mo could vaguely make out what he was saying. Lin Qingqian, Xuanhuan. Li Mo frowned. Do you know Lin Qingqian and Xuanhuan? The voice paused, and after a long while, it finally spat out 3 words. I know him. Who are you? Li Mo asked as he straightened his back. The black shadow finally moved slowly. He turned over with great difficulty. Under the weak light, the person's face was completely covered by his white and withered hair. It was impossible to see his appearance. Qin Feng walked over and helped him up. He leaned against the wall, facing Li Mo. Even these simple actions caused the figure to gasp for breath. I'm Lin Tianming, the eldest son of Lin Zainan. The figure finally revealed his identity. You're Lin Tianming? Li Mo exclaimed. Li Mo had sent people to investigate the Lin family, so he naturally knew about the sudden disappearance of Lin Zainan's 2 sons. However, he had never expected to meet the man who had disappeared so many years ago in this alternate world's prison. "It's the real deal," the man said as he combed the hair covering his forehead to the sides, revealing his facial features. His face was pale and devoid of blood, but his features were still handsome and somewhat similar to Lin Zainan's. "The Lin Qingxian you mentioned is my daughter," Lin Tianming continued. "Yun Ruoyan is my sister's child, my niece." After Lin Tianming finished speaking, he leaned against the wall. His face was even paler. The long period of imprisonment had tortured this handsome man to the point where he was half dead. "Senior, you should have a younger brother, right? Where is he?" Li Mo asked after a while. "He's dead." Lin Tianming's answer confirmed Li Mo's suspicions. He pointed to the corner of the wall where he had been lying. "He died there and I buried his body there." Lin Tianming closed his eyes, his breathing becoming so weak that if one didn't pay attention, one would really think that he was dead. "He's in a state of suspended animation," Qin Feng continued. "I'm sure that's how he managed to survive all these years of imprisonment." There were only two possibilities for someone to survive in such a state. One was that they had a deep-seated hatred that they couldn't close their eyes until their vengeance had been avenged, and the other was that they had something extremely important to report to someone. It was unknown which of these two possibilities Lin Tianming had, or perhaps both. Yun Ruoyan sat cross-legged in the wilderness for an entire day and night. When she opened her eyes, they shone brightly. She closed her eyes once more, sensing that her spiritual vortex had grown by half its original size, and that it was brimming with spiritual energy. She couldn't hide the excitement in her heart. In the span of a day and a night, she had successfully advanced from 8th rank to 9th rank through a few simple incantations from the Divine Dragon technique. It was truly a frightening speed. Yun Ruoyan walked up to the long-faced warrior's side and took away his ownerless spiritual energy, a fire-attuned sword and a fire-attuned spear. Although they couldn't compare to Qi Tong's, their power wasn't to be underestimated. Yun Ruoyan also took a spatial ring from him, within which were quite a few spiritual herbs, as well as a spirit crystal the size of an egg. However, this spirit crystal was a faint yellow, not the pure white that Yun Ruoyan had seen before. Moreover, Yun Ruoyan found that the spiritual energy contained within this spirit crystal couldn't compare to hoodlums. Based on this, Yun Ruoyan deduced that spirit crystals had different grades, and that hoodlums was definitely of a higher grade than the long-faced warriors. Yun Ruoyan also found a pouch of money within the ring, which was filled with small, grayish-white stones. Each stone also contained a small amount of spiritual energy. These were the lowest-grade spirit crystals that Yun Ruoyan had seen hoodlum use before. Yun Ruoyan looted the long-faced warrior's body of all useful items, then burned him to ash with a ball of spiritual fire. Then she mounted her sword in the direction of the caravan. When the caravan discovered that the long-faced warrior was missing, they only waited for half a day before continuing on their journey. If they missed the agreed time, they would be punished, so they couldn't care less about the long-faced warrior. By the time Yun Ruoyan caught up with the caravan, they were still half a day away from their destination. There was no time for Yun Ruoyan to wait any longer, so she stepped on her sword and blocked the path of the caravan. "Where did this ungrateful brat come from? How dare you block the Thunder family's caravan? Are you tired of living?" A burly man walked out of the caravan and berated Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan was currently wearing the clothes that she had found in the long-faced warrior's ring. Her original clothes had been stained with too much blood, so she had burned them. The long-faced warrior's clothes were too big, and Yun Ruoyan looked like a child who had stolen an adult's clothes. It was no wonder that the burly man had called her an ungrateful brat. But Yun Ruoyan didn't say a word. She stepped onto the spiritual sword she had just retrieved and charged at the burly man with Qi Tong in her hand. The burly man's cultivation was about the same as Yun Ruoyan's, but Yun Ruoyan's sudden and ferocious attacks put him at a disadvantage. Coupled with Yun Ruoyan's Qi Tong, the burly man found it difficult to withstand her attacks. In a moment of carelessness, Yun Ruoyan's Qi Tong pierced through his chest, and he died on the spot. The other three warriors hadn't taken Yun Ruoyan seriously at first, but when one of their companions died, they grew nervous and surrounded Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan was facing three opponents by herself, and even though none of them were weaker than Yun Ruoyan, she didn't fear them in the slightest. She didn't know why she was so confident in herself, but she was certain that she could take on all three of them at once. "Are you going to come at me together, or one by one?" Yun Ruoyan challenged. The three of them glanced at each other, puzzled. They could clearly tell that Yun Ruoyan was only a 9th-rank blade master, so how could she be so arrogant? But because one of their companions had just died at Yun Ruoyan's hands, They didn't dare underestimate her. "Come at me together." The three of them shouted in unison, and three figures charged at Xuanhuan simultaneously. Xuanhuan used the Qi Tong to block two of their attacks, but the third managed to cut her arm. Strangely, however, the wound on her body quickly healed itself, and she was as good as new. My guess was right, Xuanhuan thought. The dragon energy that the demonic eye had left in Xuanhuan's body not only helped her cultivate the divine dragon technique more quickly, but also allowed her to quickly recover from her injuries. As a result, Xuanhuan no longer cared about her own safety. She focused on attacking without defending, becoming as dangerous as a cheetah. The three warriors who had attacked Xuanhuan were also injured by Xuanhuan. But while Xuanhuan was able to heal herself quickly, the three warriors couldn't. In the second round, the three warriors were injured even more severely, but Xuanhuan was able to heal herself quickly. In the fourth round, Xuanhuan killed two of the three warriors, but she healed herself quickly. In the fifth round, the last warrior was killed by Xuanhuan in despair. Chapter 357. Sister Ruoyan, it's really you? You're here to save me. As soon as Xuanhuan opened the carriage, Lin Qingxue leapt into Xuanhuan's embrace, and Xuanhuan patted her back to comfort her. It's all right. I'll take you away. Thank you for saving me. A female voice spoke up from behind Xuanhuan. Xuanhuan turned around and saw Shuejiai. Her face had recovered to about 80% of its original state, so Xuanhuan recognized her immediately. You're welcome. Where are you going? Xuanhuan asked. Shuejiai walked closer to Xuanhuan. We have something important to do and we'd like to invite you to join us. Would you be willing to join us? What's the matter? Xuanhuan asked curiously. To steal spirit crystals, Shuejiai answered without hiding anything. Shuejiai told her everything about her family's situation regarding spirit crystals. With the help of spirit crystals, we'll definitely be able to advance our cultivation to a whole new level, Shuejiai continued. The fatty, the black-faced man, and the others all nodded in agreement. Lin Qingxue and Zhuo Yifeng also nodded in agreement. They'd never cultivated with spirit crystals before, but they'd been longing for it just by listening to others talk about it. This is indeed a rare opportunity, Zhuo Yifeng commented. Zhuo Yifeng said, spirit crystal stones are absolutely essential for survival on the Qingyuan continent, and they can also help us break through our cultivation. Xuanhuan thought about it for a moment, then finally nodded in agreement under the attentive gazes of those around her. The fatty, black-faced man, and two other beastkin men disguised themselves as warriors, while Xuanhuan blended into the prisoner's carriage and was driven to their destination. Within the carriage, Xuanhuan hurriedly wrote a letter to Li Mo, detailing the current situation and what she was going to do next. She then tied the letter to Amor's leg and had it deliver the letter to Li Mo. Xuanhuan leaned against the carriage, watching as Amor's shadow grew smaller and smaller. Only then did she look away. Ever since their wedding, the two of them had been inseparable. After such a long time apart, Xuanhuan couldn't help but miss him. I wonder if Li Mo has managed to rescue Master Qin. Hopefully, he'll be able to do so as soon as possible and reunite with me. After Lin Tianming entered a state of suspended animation, Li Mo and Qin Feng didn't know how many days and nights they had spent in the dungeon. All they knew was that someone had come to deliver food. Li Mo's portion of the meal was given to Qin Feng, who enjoyed it immensely. Lin Tianming had been saving food for him. Qin Feng said that Lin Tianming always ate whenever he woke up. After some time, Li Mo's external injuries had mostly healed, but the injury to his heart hadn't completely healed. One day while Li Mo was meditating as usual, he heard footsteps approaching. This time, the frequency of the meal is higher, Qin Feng said happily. However, the person who came wasn't the one who placed the food. Instead, it was a warrior. He opened the cell door and coldly said to Li Mo, "Come out." Li Mo followed the warrior to a banquet hall in the city lord's manor. The banquet hall was bustling with noise and excitement. The Thunder family had invited the other families to a banquet. This is an expert among the Thunder family's slaves. Thunder Flame, who was sitting on the main seat, turned to the other members of the 6 great clans and said, I wonder if any of you still dare to accept the challenge I just mentioned? As it turned out, these families had been bored by the music and dance at the banquet, and someone had decided to have an expert of their own slaves fight to liven things up. Why wouldn't we dare? The Wang family head replied. He's just a slave after all. If he's dead, we can just throw him away. I'll send out one of my slaves to fight him. The Wang family head made a gesture, and a stocky middle-aged man walked out from behind him and stood in front of Liemo. He had also concealed his aura, so neither side knew the other's cultivation. A battle between slaves is a battle of life and death. Neither side should hold back, Thunderflame declared. Begin. The short, stocky man was clearly a frequent participant in such competitions. As soon as Thunderbolt gave the signal to begin, he sprinted toward Liemo, his timing perfect. A khaki-colored spiritual energy appeared in the man's hands, and he launched a flurry of attacks on Liemo's body. Fists, palms, fingers, kicks, thrusts, fists, palms and fingers were all used on Liemo. Liemo's attacks were a blur, and although they were fast they were still miles away from Thunderflame's speed. Liemo easily parried every blow without missing a beat. "You're not my match," Liemo declared. "Admit defeat." "In a battle between slaves, one side must die," the man replied. "Either you die or I die." The man increased the speed and strength of his attacks, not holding back at all. It was obvious that he was relying on speed to win. However, the difference in strength between the two was too great. As soon as the man used his spiritual energy, Liemo could tell that he was only a peak 8th rank blade master, and Liemo could easily crush him. Liemo didn't hold back when he saw how crazed the man was. He grabbed the man's seemingly fast but actually weak fists with both hands and twisted them in different directions. With two crisp cracking sounds, the man let out a muffled groan, and both his wrists were broken by Liemo. The short, burly man endured the pain of his broken bones and continued to kick at Liemo. Liemo reached out and crushed both of his knees, and the man finally stopped. Liemo released his grip, and the stocky man collapsed to the ground. Thunderflame's servant wins. Someone announced the result loudly, then two men stepped forward and dragged the stocky man away. "What a useless piece of trash." The Wang family head roared angrily at the man. He then took out a dagger and stabbed it into the man's chest in front of everyone. The man died on the spot. "Throw him into the wild and feed him to the wild dogs," the Wang family head said with disgust. When Liemo saw this scene, even he couldn't help but frown, and his gaze toward the Wang family head grew colder. When the Wang family head sensed Liemo's gaze, he roared, "What are you looking at? If you lose, you'll end up the same way. This is the rule of the slave duels. Crippled slaves are useless and their only fate is death." The next 3 matches were all unsurprisingly won by Liemo. The slaves were all from low-tier continents, and their cultivation ranged from 8th rank to 9th rank. Their combat style was primarily physical, and their spiritual energy attacks were secondary. How could they possibly be a match for Liemo? The slaves who lost were also executed on the spot. This was clearly a murder banquet. The last match was between Liemo and the Feng family's servant. A handsome young man in a brocade robe walked up to Liemo. "Young master, it's been more than a month. How have you been?" The young man bowed slightly to Liemo. Liemo recognized him as the one who'd been bitten by Xuanhuan. "I'm still alive," Liemo replied. "You're no match for me." "It's fine. My family head is benevolent and Fengbo is my uncle, so he'll take care of me. Young master, feel free to fight." When Liemo heard this, he couldn't help but glance at the Feng family head a few more times. He was a hale and hearty old man, and Fengbo stood behind him while Fengbo sat beside him. Judging from their age, they seemed to be grandfather and grandson. Let the duel begin. Unlike the other slaves, the young man didn't immediately attack Liemo to seize the initiative. Instead, he stood in place and used a wood-based external technique, the vine technique. Half of the vines formed a net in front of the young man, while the other half attacked Liemo like an octopus. Liemo remained motionless, allowing the octopus-like vines to wrap around him and pull him toward the young man. When Liemo wasn't far from the young man, an invisible layer of ice crystal appeared on his body. As soon as the spiritual energy barrier formed over Liemo's body, the vines began to tighten, and barbs began to sprout from the vines. If not for Liemo's sturdy defenses, he would have been pierced into a porcupine or even strangled to death. However, the defenses of a second-level swordmaster were absolutely monstrous. Against those below that level, their attacks were even more frightening. Liemo reached out and tore away the vines that had trapped him. It was as if Liemo had opened a door and he stepped out of it. Then, he continued to pull away the vines in front of the handsome young master. He didn't look like he was fighting, but more like he was trying to save the child from being surrounded by vines. "Since your family head won't make things difficult for you, why don't you admit defeat?" Liemo asked the young man. "That's against the rules," the young man replied. "In that case, I'll have to offend you," Liemo said. Liemo said, then reached out and pulled the young master out of the vines, ruthlessly throwing him to the ground. He then raised his hand and was about to punch him a few times in the back so that his defeat would be reasonable. Wait. Before Li Mo could finish his punch, the head of the Feng family stopped him. My servant has lost. There's no need to fight. The youth returned to stand behind the head of the Feng family, leaving Li Mo alone on the stage once more. The Thunderbolt servant has won, someone announced. Not bad. Thunderbolt was in a good mood. The winner of a slave duel will get a prize. What would you like as a prize? I want 2 people, Li Mo replied. Who? Thunderbolt asked curiously. The 2 people in the prison, Li Mo replied. You really don't know the rules, the head of the Wang family said. Slaves can't have slaves. Don't misunderstand everyone, Li Mo said. I don't want to keep the 2 of them as slaves, but I'd like the family head to release them from the prison with me. Is that a good enough prize? Brother Thunderbolt, you should try your best to satisfy the victor, the head of the Feng family said. Thunderbolt finally nodded in agreement. Chapter 358. Fatty, Lao He and 2 other beastmen disguised themselves as slave escorts, while Yun Ruoyan's coachman kept them under the influence of her intoxicating powder. The group continued on their way to the mine. By nightfall, the group finally arrived at the mine. From afar, it looked like a tall stone wall had encircled the vein mine like an iron bucket. There were guards at the top of the wall, and Lao He hurried up to greet them. The stone gate slowly opened, and 4 caged carriages carrying nearly 100 people entered. Brother warriors, why do you look so unfamiliar? The guard who opened the door asked Fatty O Black and the others. He was a dark-skinned, rough man in his 40s. Clearly he was quite familiar with the escorting warriors from before. Lao He frowned and glared at the guard. The fat man quickly interjected, Our former brothers have been assigned other tasks. In the future we brothers will be in charge of escorting slaves. Slowly we won't meet each other anymore. Right. Brothers, please come in, the guard hurriedly said. He had only been asking casually. On the Gongyuan continent, warriors enjoyed a high status, and it wasn't unusual for them to kill someone if they were unhappy. As a result, the guard didn't dare ask any further questions. Where's the supervisor? Lao He asked seriously. He's at the mine. The guard led the group to a row of stone houses. Each house had an iron door and those were probably where the slaves were kept. The guard led the group to an empty house and opened the stone door. Everyone disembarked from the caged carriages and entered the house one by one. Yun Ruoyan followed the group out of the caged carriages. She saw that about a dozen rooms were empty. Where are the slaves? Why isn't there a single one here? Fatty asked the guard. They've all gone to the mine, the guard replied. A few days ago when they were exploring the mine, they discovered an extremely dense spiritual energy seeping out from the depths of the mine. The supervisor suspected that there might be Saint-grade spirit stones, so he sent everyone there to mine as soon as possible. Saint-grade spirit stones. Fatty and Lao He's eyes lit up at the same time. They turned to Yun Ruoyan and Shuejiai who was standing by her side. Yun Ruoyan could also sense that Shuejiai's breathing had quickened. In the afternoon while they were on the road, Yun Ruoyan had asked Shuejiai about the specifics of spirit crystals. She learned that they were divided into 3 grades: low-grade, mid-grade, and high-grade. Low-grade spirit stones contained weak spiritual energy and could be used as currency for transactions. Mid-grade spirit stones contained medium spiritual energy and could be used for cultivation, but the effect was average. High-grade spirit stones contained abundant spiritual energy and were the best supplement for cultivation. The spirit crystals that Hoodlum, Shuejiai, and the Fatty had given Li Mo were all high-grade, while the ones that Yun Ruoyan had taken from the long-faced warrior were mid-grade. Shuejiai told Yun Ruoyan that sacred-grade spirit stones were extremely rare. It was said that if one carried a sacred-grade spirit stone the size of an egg with them, they wouldn't need to refine spiritual energy from the heavens and earth. Instead, it would automatically replenish the spiritual energy in one spiritual vortex. After Yun Ruoyan's group entered the stone house, Fatty, Blackie, and the other 2 warriors left with the guards. In the middle of the night, Fatty Chen and Blackie entered the stone hut to discuss with Yun Ruoyan and the others how they were going to acquire the mine. Damn, we're so lucky! Blackie exclaimed excitedly. I was only hoping to get some high-grade spirit stones, but I didn't expect to find a sacred-grade mine. That's right. Fatty Chen was just as excited as Blackie. As long as I can get my hands on a sacred-grade spirit stone, it won't be a dream for me to break through to become a sword saint. As soon as Fatty Chen said this, everyone's eyes lit up. Now, the question before them was how they were going to acquire the mine. Those guards are all below 9th rank Blade Master cultivation, Xuanhuan explained. I can deal with them with my bewitching powder. When Xuanhuan had used bewitching powder on the coachman, everyone had seen how effective it was, and they all nodded in agreement. I'll have to rely on the two of you to deal with the steward and the guards above 9th rank, Xuanhuan said to Blackie and Fatty Chen. Blackie and Fatty Chen glanced at each other, and Fatty Chen said, It's not that I'm afraid of death, but with our cultivation, it shouldn't be a problem for us to deal with 2 or 3 of our peers. However, according to the guard, the steward and the guards around him are all mid-rank blade masters and above, so we definitely won't be their match. Use this. Xuanhuan took out a black porcelain bottle. If we can't beat them, we can use poison. Put this in our food and drink, and even if it doesn't kill them, it'll at least cripple them. The poison in the bottle was something that Xiaoqiu had recently taught Xuanhuan to concoct. As Xuanhuan's cultivation had increased, so had the poison that she could concoct. It wasn't until the next day that the steward and his entourage returned from the mines. If Xuanhuan had been present, she would have recognized him at a glance as the head of the Zhang family, a rather capable middle-aged man who had entertained the steward that day. In fact, the Zhang family was also a servant of the Pai family. They were in charge of managing the crystal spirit stone vein for the Pai family. There were no less than 100 slave families like the Zhang family and the Pai family. Blackie and Fatty Chen had taken the initiative to get close to him, and the head of the Zhang family was more than happy to do so as well. As a result, the steward set up a feast for Fatty Chen that very afternoon. Blackie and the other 3, Fatty Chen ordered for the stronger guards to accompany them. The steward was in a good mood after discovering the St. Grade mine, so he and the other guards arranged a large feast for 20 or so people. Come, I'll drink first as a sign of respect. Fatty Chen poured a bowl of wine into his mouth, then flipped the empty bowl over in front of everyone, not spilling a single drop. Brother, you're the best. The head of the Zhang family patted Fatty Chen's shoulder, and everyone else nodded in agreement. Blackie, on the other hand, took advantage of this moment to poison a few of the wine jugs nearby. Although the fatty looked dull, he was very good at fawning and socializing. In fact, he was a person who looked simple on the outside but was refined on the inside. He flattered the Zhang family's clan head, praising a shrewd person to the point that he was floating in the air. I wonder if you've reported the discovery of the St. Grade mine to the head of the Zhang family? Fatty Chen found an opportunity to ask the head of the Zhang family. Not yet. The head of the Zhang family drank the bowl of wine that Fatty Chen passed over, then said, This matter is too big. If I didn't see the real thing, I wouldn't dare to report it carelessly. If there's a mistake, I won't be able to bear the consequences. Brother, you're smart. Fatty Chen gave the head of the Zhang family a thumbs up. What kind of master is our head? If he wasn't smart, he would have died long ago. Before the head of the Zhang family could finish his words, he felt like he couldn't breathe. It was as if something was blocking his nose and mouth, causing his face to turn red, then white. Brother, what's wrong with you? Fatty Chen asked. The head of the Zhang family only had time to glance at Fatty Chen before collapsing back into his chair, bleeding from his nose and mouth. The rest of the guards followed suit, and before long a large number of them had collapsed. Some died on the spot while others were still alive. My goodness, this little girl's poison is too amazing. Fatty Chen exclaimed as he stood up from his seat. He, Blackie, and the other 2 beastmen had all taken the antidote beforehand. When they saw the poisoned state of the guards around them, all of whom were more powerful than them, they couldn't help but be shocked. At the same time, Xuanhuan also used a bewitching powder to knock out the nearby guards, who were weaker than her. She then led a group of unconscious guards to meet up with Fatty Chen, Blackie, and the others in front of the stone hut. Then she released Zhuifeng, Lin Qingxue, Shuejiai, and the others. Under the guidance of the guards, the group headed toward the mine. After Li Mo emerged victorious in the slave duel, he requested that Qin Feng and Lin Tianming be brought out of the prison and placed in the firewood hut. When Lin Qingchen saw Lin Tianming, she couldn't help but cry in each other's arms. Lin Tianming's condition was extremely poor, and he quickly fell back into a state of suspended animation. Lin Qingchen wanted to treat him, but she didn't have any spiritual herbs. Her storage pouch and storage ring had been confiscated by one of the stewards, and Whitey was in the ring. These few days, Lin Qingchen had been following the steward around the manor, looking for an opportunity to retrieve her belongings. At night, Li Mo was lying on his bed thinking about how to get Lin Qingchen, Qin Feng, and Lin Tianming out of the Thunderbolt Manor. Previously there had only been Lin Qingchen, and even with Qin Feng, it wouldn't have been a problem for them to escape. However, now that Lin Tianming was involved, it would be more than twice as difficult to escape. Just as Li Mo was thinking of a solution, he suddenly sensed an aura approaching the firewood hut. He immediately sat up on his bed and rushed to the door. "Brother Li, it's me." Just as Li Mo's hand landed on the man's neck, the man blurted out, "It's you?" Li Mo didn't retract his hand. "Sir, why have you come to visit me in the middle of the night?" The man was none other than the brocade-robed man whom Li Mo had met twice before. "My master asked me to come," the brocade-robed man said. "My master and my uncle are both very fond of you, Brother Li, and they asked me to bring you a few things." The brocade-robed man took out a ring and passed it to Li Mo. Li Mo took the ring and inspected its contents, discovering that it contained a few precious high-grade spiritual herbs and a high-grade spirit stone that glowed with a white light. "My master saw that your heart was damaged, so he sent you some spiritual herbs and stones to help you heal," the brocade-robed man said. Only then did Li Mo remove his hand from the brocade-robed man's neck. "If not for your uncle, I wouldn't have been trapped here in the first place. Tell me, what do your uncle and the head of the Feng family want from me?" "Since Brother Li is so straightforward, I won't beat around the bush," the brocade-robed man said. The brocade-robed young master said, "My family's patriarch hopes that Brother Li will submit to the Feng family and help us deal with the Pai family." Chapter 359. The brocade-robed man had come to recruit Li Mo on behalf of the Feng family. "I can join forces against the Thunderbolt family, but I don't think there's a need for me to submit," Li Mo replied. "Brother Li," the brocade-robed man continued, "if you want to establish yourself on the continent, you'll have to rely on a powerful family. Of the 7 great families, the Thunderbolt family is the Feng family. The Thunderbolt family is cruel and they're not suitable for us. The Feng family, on the other hand, is merciful. Now that the head of the family favors you, you'll surely have a high position in the Feng family. I appreciate the Feng family's goodwill, but I've made up my mind. I can join forces against the Thunderbolt family, but there's no need for me to submit." "Li Mo has no intention of becoming a slave," Li Mo interrupted. "All right," the brocade-robed man said regretfully, "I'll convey your intentions to the head of the family." The brocade-robed man cupped his fists toward Li Mo and was about to leave when Li Mo called out to him from behind. "Tell the young master to be careful of the woman by his side," Li Mo instructed. "She's possessed by a demonic spirit, and her body carries corpse poison. The person who bit you was the one who was attacked by her. Last night, during the duel, Li Mo had seen a woman standing behind Feng Xian. It was Yi Qianying. That ghost had some tricks up her sleeves. Using Yi Qianying's gentle appearance and seductive methods, she had turned from a slave into Feng Xian's personal maid in a short period of time. Last night, although she kept her head down and hid herself behind the crowd, she didn't escape Li Mo's eyes." The brocade-robed man frowned and cupped his fists once more. "Thank you for the reminder, Brother Li." Led by the guards, Xuanhuan's party walked on the rugged mountain path for a full 4 hours before they finally saw the mine. It was a barren mountain of white rocks. There was not even a single blade of grass growing on it. The white rocks were somewhat glaring under the sunlight. At the foot of the mountain, hundreds of slaves were busily working. The sounds of stones being smashed, the guards yelling, and the sound of whips striking flesh echoed throughout the valley. "Get to work. None of you are allowed to slack off. If we can't dig through the mine by today, you're not allowed to sleep at night. You're not allowed to eat either." The guard held a long whip in his hand and pointed at a group of emaciated and exhausted slaves as he shouted, "Sister Ruoyan." Lin Qingxue tugged on Yun Ruoyan's arm and whispered, "This isn't a mine, it's a living hell." Yun Ruoyan didn't say anything, only patting her on the back. "Who is the person in charge here?" The fatty sat on a big rock and shouted at the top of his voice. He was wearing the warrior clothes of the Thunderbolt clan and looked like a ferocious warrior, which was quite intimidating. The guard who was swinging the whip immediately trotted over. He ran all the way to the fat man and asked respectfully, "Sir Warrior, I am the little manager of this place. What are you doing here?" Before he could finish his sentence, Yun Ruoyan stepped forward and sprinkled a handful of bewitching powder on his face. "Gather all the guards here," Yun Ruoyan ordered. In less than 5 minutes, a dozen or so guards had been gathered. All of them were 9th-rank blade masters. In a one-on-one fight, none of them would be a match for Yun Ruoyan, but if they all attacked her together, it would be very troublesome. "Brothers." The fat man turned to the 20 guards and said, I'm here on behalf of the Thunderbolt family's patriarch to express his condolences. When the patriarch heard that a Saint-grade spirit crystal stone appeared in our lode, he was very happy and sent me to bring some good wine to reward everyone. When the Saint-grade spirit crystal stone appears, the patriarch will certainly reward everyone. Lao He poured a jug of wine into a dozen or so large bowls for the guards to drink. The guards looked at each other but none of them stepped forward. Thank you, patriarch. The guard who had been bewitched by Xuanhuan stepped forward and downed a bowl of wine without hesitation. Only then did the other guard step forward and drink as well. Xuanhuan counted down from 10 in her mind, and the guards all died at the same time. Xuanhuan didn't immediately release the slaves. First, the Thunderbolt family's methods of dealing with escaped slaves were extremely cruel, and second, in their current state, they would all die if they left the mine. As a result, Xuanhuan ordered the guards to bring all the slaves back to camp so that they could rest. In less than 2 hours, only Xuanhuan, Lin Qingxue, Zhui Feng, and the Beastkin tribe remained. Xuanhuan had learned from the butler that the sacred mine was about to be excavated, so the group immediately entered the mine. Xuanhuan had sent Mo to deliver a letter to Li Mo. On this day it was about to arrive at Thunderbolt City. In the wilderness outside the city, it saw a sparkling lake below, and it wanted to drink some water. Suddenly, a black dog-like beast leaped out of nowhere and pounced at Amor. Amor was caught off guard, and its claws were caught in the sky-swallowing beast's mouth. Amor reacted quickly and with a long howl, its body instantly grew larger in midair. Only then did it manage to keep its claws in the sky-swallowing beast's mouth, but it still ended up bleeding profusely. Amor's cultivation was equivalent to that of a 9th-rank human blade master, while a sky-swallowing beast's cultivation was equivalent to that of a peak 9th-rank human blade master. Was no match for the beast, so it turned around and fled. The sky-swallowing beast leaped a second time in midair and bit down on Amor's neck. Struggled with all its might, but a large chunk of flesh was torn off its neck, sending feathers flying everywhere. Amor let out a long mournful wail, and the sky-swallowing beast felt its head spin as it fell from the sky. Only then did Amor have a chance to escape. The sky-swallowing beast stumbled a few steps, shook its head and gradually regained its senses. It wanted to continue chasing after Amor, but was stopped by Thunderbolt Badian. The sky-swallowing beast roared at Amor's disappearing figure, then ran up to Thunderbolt Badian's horse and spat out a scroll of paper on the ground. A warrior with a bow on his back picked up the scroll and handed it to Thunderbolt Badian. As soon as Thunderbolt Badian unfolded the scroll, his brows furrowed tightly. What a bold gopher! How dare she plot against the Thunderbolt family? Does she not know how to spell the word death? The scroll of paper crumbled into powder in Thunderbolt Badian's hand. Brother, what's the matter? Thunderbolt Yang galloped over and asked when he saw Thunderbolt Badian's expression. If I'm not mistaken, this must be the handiwork of that gopher you keep mentioning, Xuanhuan. Thunderbolt Badian tossed the scroll to Thunderbolt Yang. Thunderbolt Yang looked at the words on the scroll. It was addressed to Li Mo, and she had called herself Yen. Who else could it be? This woman must have eaten a leopard's gall. Thunderbolt Yang exclaimed after reading the contents of the letter. I wonder if she's as fast as a leopard when it comes to escaping. After Thunderclap Badian finished speaking, he led his small hunting team towards the direction of the spirit crystal stone vein. Thunderclap Yang also hurriedly urged his horse to follow. Li Mo fed Lin Tianming the spiritual pill he had obtained from the brocade rogue youth and gave the spirit crystal to Qin Feng. The two of them finally began to recover. The frequency at which Lin Tianming entered a state of suspended animation decreased, and Qin Feng's cultivation finally broke through to the peak of 9th rank, allowing him to hold his own against the Thunderbolt family's elite warriors. Li Mo really wanted to tell Xuanhuan that he had found Lin Tianming. Over the past few days he had tried to whistle for Mo, but there was no response. He even tried to communicate with Chirp, but to no avail. Gradually Li Mo began to feel uneasy. That night, Li Mo once again whistled for Mo, from the window of the woodshed, but there was no response. Just as he was about to close the window, a small bird flew in from outside. The bird's body was soaked in blood, and it fell to the ground as soon as it entered the room. Li Mo reached out to catch it. Emoto. Li Mo called out as he looked at the dying bird in his palm. A large chunk of flesh had been bitten off its neck, and its blood vessels had ruptured. The bird had lost too much blood and it didn't look like it was going to survive. Li Mo's gaze landed on Amor's claws, which had also been badly mangled. He guessed that Xuanhuan must have sent Mo to deliver a letter to him, but that the letter had been snatched away halfway. There was no other possibility that Li Baishan's sky-swallowing beast could have left such a wound on Emoer's body. Li Emo narrowed his eyes, growing increasingly worried for Xuanhuan. That night, when the brocade-robed youth once more came to Li Emo to persuade him, Li Emo actually agreed to his request. However, he also made a request of his own, for the Feng family to search for Xuanhuan and provide her with protection. Xuanhuan's party didn't know that Li Badian had already arrived. They followed their plan and entered the Spirit Crystal Mine, which was a tunnel 1,000 feet deep. The Beastcloth tribe was good at hunting and mining. The ancestor of the Beastcloth tribe who brought back the Spirit Crystal Stones was a person who was responsible for prospecting in the Spirit Crystal Stone Mine. The fatty, old Sable, and the other Beast King clansmen led the way. Xuanhuan, Lin Qingxue, and Shui Jiayi in the middle, and Zhui Feng brought up the rear. Even before they reached the bottom of the mine, they saw a white light emanating from the front. At the same time, they felt an incomparably rich spiritual energy surging up from the depths of the mine. The Saint Grade mine should be right in front of us. Everyone hurry up. Old Sable's voice came from the front, and the group quickened their pace. After making a turn, a stone wall glowing with white spiritual energy appeared in front of them. We're here. The spirit crystals are just behind this wall. The fatty and old Sable exclaimed excitedly. Although he could see the white light of spiritual power and feel the abundant spiritual power, in fact, there was still a thick layer of low-grade and mid-grade spiritual stones separating him from the Saint-grade spirit crystal stone vein. The stone walls that were emitting a white light were made of low-grade spirit stones. There were many traces of digging on them. It was clear that they were the result of the slaves working day and night without rest. More than 20 men from the Beastkin tribe immediately picked up their mining tools and continued to work. It was impossible to determine the exact time at the bottom of the mine, so in the face of the temptation of Saint-grade spirit stones, everyone tirelessly continued to mine. Low-grade spirit crystals were pushed out of the tunnel by carts, followed by mid-grade spirit crystals. The white light grew brighter and brighter. Finally, when the last mid-grade spirit crystal was excavated, a clean, jade-like wall appeared in front of them. Chapter 360. It was a stone wall that seemed to be made of white jade. It glowed with a dazzling white spiritual light, and at the same time emitted a chilly aura. At first glance it was a bit blinding, but after a while it actually softened. Is this entire wall made of Saint-grade spirit stones? Lin Qingxue stared at the jade-like wall with her large, sparkling eyes, incredulous. No, Shuijie replied. The outer layer is a stone outer coffin, and within that outer coffin is a sacred spirit crystal. Then let's continue. Old Hay raised the hammer in his hand and smashed it against the jade wall. With a clang, Old Hay's hammer bounced back, and even Old Hay was forced back a few steps. Oh my god, why is it so hard? Old Hay swung his hand, which had gone numb from the impact. Let me try. The fatty didn't believe it. He smashed the wall with his chisel, but he didn't leave a single mark. What should we do? It's right in front of us, but we can't get it. Zhui Feng walked up and touched the wall with his hand, feeling a chill seep into his skin. Ruoyan, try using your scarlet eye sword. He turned to Yun Ruoyan and said, Ruoyan, try using your sword. Yun Ruoyan nodded and took out her scarlet eye. As soon as it came into contact with the cold, jade-like stone, it was as if a piece of hot metal had come into contact with a block of ice. The stone outer coffin, so hard and impenetrable, was cut apart as if it were tofu. As the crowd gasped in shock, Yun Ruoyan finished cutting the outer coffin into pieces, revealing an egg-sized piece of stone crystal, which was a Saint-grade spirit crystal, in front of everyone's eyes. Yun Ruoyan reached out and took the egg-sized crystal in her hand. She felt as if 100,000 pores on her body had opened up at once, and a large amount of spiritual energy flowed into her body from the crystal. The feeling of filling her spiritual vortex without the need to deliberately condense it was a wondrous one. Just as Yun Ruoyan was immersed in this wondrous feeling, someone suddenly called out, "Why is there smoke? Is there a fire somewhere?" Yun Ruoyan also noticed that a large amount of smoke was pouring into the tunnel they had come from. As the smoke grew thicker and thicker, everyone couldn't help but cough. Not good, someone is setting the cave on fire. They want to suffocate us to death, Zhui Feng said. The smell was unbearable, and they didn't care if there was an ambush at the entrance of the cave. They all ran outside. Zhui Feng. As they ran, Yun Ruoyan called out, "No matter what happens, you have to protect Qingxue." Zhui Feng glanced at Yun Ruoyan, but before he could give her any time to react, he heard a familiar male voice from the tunnel entrance. Gophers inside, come out and die. Xuanhuan's group dashed out of the thick smoke and ran out of the tunnel. Kicking aside the burning hay at the mouth of the tunnel, they saw a group of about a dozen warriors on horseback glaring at them. Well done, Xuanhuan, and well done to the rats of the beastkin tribe. Not only did you kill the warriors of my family, but you've even set your sights on my spirit crystal mine. You must be tired of living. The man who spoke was dressed in a red robe. His face was filled with a murderous smile, and he didn't bother to hide his cultivation at all. Only under one circumstance would a cultivator unleash their full cultivation: if they were strong enough and if they wanted to kill enough. Let me tell you with my aura, you're dead meat. Who's this person? The fatty asked. His aura's so strong. He must be a sword saint, right? His name is Pai Badian, the young master of the Pai family. He's a level 2 sword saint, Zhui Feng replied. Hearing Zhui Feng's words, everyone around him sucked in a breath of cold air. His cultivation base was at level 2 of the Great Perfection realm, which meant that all of them together would not be a match for him. That can't be right. I just took a whole bag full of high-grade spirit crystals. Are we going to be able to use them even if we have the life to mine them? Now that things have come to this, let's all focus on preserving our own lives. Xuanhuan turned to Lin Qingxue. Hide behind me later. Lin Qingxue nodded. Although she was nervous, she didn't show any signs of fear. Xuanhuan, hurry up and bring your men here to surrender. If you do, you might be able to keep your life. Thunderclap shouted at Xuanhuan. Thunderclap glanced at Thunderclap. You killed a warrior and tried to steal spirit crystals. The death penalty is unavoidable. Brother? Thunderclap hurriedly interjected. You might not know this, but Xuanhuan is Li Mo's wife. Haven't you always wanted to subdue Li Mo? With this woman in your hands, you won't have to worry about Li Mo's resistance. I see. When Thunderclap Badian heard Thunderclap Yang's words, his gaze toward Xuanhuan sharpened. Warriors, listen up. Leave that white-clothed woman alive and kill everyone else. A dozen or so warriors rushed toward Xuanhuan's group, brandishing their swords and sabers. Everyone, don't stick together. Spread out. Xuanhuan called out, and the crowd scattered in all directions. Those who had their weapons taken away by the heaven-flipping mirror when they first arrived were chopped up like vegetables by the warriors on horseback. Soon more than half of them were killed. Some people with flying spirit tools immediately flew into the sky. However, some warriors also flew into the sky and chased after them on their flying swords. Fatty stood on a pair of chopsticks, while Old Hay stood on a large sword. The two of them stopped a warrior on a khaki-colored sword. Xuejiai, you go first. Fatty turned back to Xuejiai. If we leave together. If we die together. Xuejiai didn't flee. Instead, she turned around and faced the warrior in front of them. The warrior's aura was also released, and he was roughly a peak 9th rank blade master. Haha, since you're all so loyal, I'll fulfill your wish. The warrior took out a pair of khaki-colored hammers and swung them at Fatty and Old Hay. The two of them tried to block the hammers with their weapons, but they were both sent flying. Taking advantage of the fact that the samurai didn't have a weapon, Yukime circled to his back, condensed an ice sword in her hand, and stabbed it into the samurai's back. The tip of the ice sword came out of the samurai's chest. Humph, do you take us beastkin tribesmen for nothing? I'll make you pay the price today. Xuejie then condensed a dagger and placed it on the warrior's neck, slowly cutting open the warrior's throat. Xuejie, let's go. Old Hay and Fatty flew back, pulling Xuejie with them as they tried to escape. However, before they could even get 30 meters away, they heard a crackling sound in the sky. The three of them had no choice but to stop, because Thunderbolt Badian was standing in their way. He was dressed in a red robe and he was standing on a red sword aura, a scarlet whip in his hand. He swung the whip, which made an ear-piercing snapping sound in the air. At the same time, a red glow appeared in the air. Go to hell, you despicable rats, Thunderbolt Badian said coolly, then lashed out at the three of them. This whip was truly faster than lightning, and before it even reached them, the red light had already enveloped the three of them. Xuanhuan and the others looked up at the scene unfolding in front of them. Xuejiai and the other two didn't even have a chance to resist. By the time the red light dissipated, the three of them had fallen from the sky, right in front of Xuanhuan and the others. Sister Ruoyan, brother Zhuot, they. Lin Qingshue's voice trembled. They're dead, Zhui Feng replied. What a frightening person and what a frightening cultivation, Xuanhuan commented. Zhui Feng, I'm the strongest of the three of us, so I'll cover our retreat. You take Qingxue and run. Ruoyan. Sister Ruoyan. Zhui Feng and Lin Qingxue called out at the same time. Otherwise all three of us will die here, Yin Ruoyan said. With a flip of her hand she retrieved the scarlet eye sword. A streak of red light appeared beneath her feet, and she soared towards Thunderbolt Badian. Stupid woman, are you courting death? Thunderbolt Yang shouted at Yin Ruoyan from below. Let us end this massacre, Yin Ruoyan said to Thunderbolt Badian. However, Thunderbolt Badian didn't seem to hear Yin Ruoyan's words. His gaze was completely focused on the scarlet eye sword in Yin Ruoyan's hand. What a beautiful sword, Thunderbolt Badian murmured. I didn't want to kill you, but I want the sword in your hand. It looks like I have no choice but to kill you. Without another word, Thunderbolt Badian lashed out at Yin Ruoyan with his whip. Yin Ruoyan responded by slashing out with her sword, and the two streaks of red light collided. In the end, the sword wasn't a match for the whip, and it dissipated. As a result, the whip dimmed significantly, and it landed on Yin Ruoyan's body. Yin Ruoyan let out a muffled groan as she fell to the ground from midair. She only managed to stabilize herself after retreating several dozen feet. Sister Ruoyan. Yin Ruoyan heard Lin Qingxue yell at her. When she turned her head, she saw that Zhui Feng and Lin Qingxue were still standing in the same spot. Idiot, hurry up and run. Zhui Feng, if Qingxue gets hurt, I won't forgive you. When Thunderbolt Badian saw this scene, he raised his whip and lashed it at Zhui Feng and Lin Qingxue. Don't even think of harming my family. Yin Ruoyan shouted as she sent Scarlet Eye flying towards the whip. Scarlet Eye blocked the majority of the whip, but a small portion still managed to strike Zhui Feng and Lin Qingxue. At this moment, a shield suddenly appeared in front of Zhui Feng. That pitch-black shield blocked the remaining whip shadows. Then, without any hesitation, Zhui Feng picked up Lin Qingxue and ran off into the distance. They actually got away. Thunderbolt's eyes widened in shock as he looked in the direction that Zhui Feng and Lin Qingxue had escaped. As long as he could remember, he had never seen anyone escape from his brother's clutches. At the same time, he was worried for Yin Ruoyan. She would soon have to bear the full brunt of Thunderbolt Badian's wrath. Chapter 361. Pai Badian turned toward Yin Ruoyan and slowly landed on the ground, his eyes filled with killing intent. Qi Tong, come back. Yin Ruoyan stretched out her hand, and the sword flew back into her grasp. By now, all of the beastkin tribesmen on the ground had been exterminated, and only Yin Ruoyan and Pai Badian remained standing. At this time, a warrior ran up to report to Thunderclap Badian. We just interrogated a beastskin cloak tribesman and found out that they obtained a saint-grade spirit crystal from this mine. It's in this woman's hands. A sagely spirit crystal? Pai Badian's eyes, which were already brimming with killing intent, turned cold once more. The warrior's voice was so loud that everyone present could hear him. Yin Ruoyan, no one can save you now. Pai Badian sighed. Hand over the sagely spirit crystal. Pai Badian's tone was still indifferent, but his killing intent hadn't diminished in the slightest. You won't kill me if I hand it over? Yin Ruoyan suddenly smiled. Of course I won't. Pai Badian glanced at Yin Ruoyan. The crimes you've committed are enough for you to die 10 times over. I'm already letting you off easy by killing you once. Then why are you still wasting your breath? Yin Ruoyan sneered. You're all unafraid of death. Pai Badian thought of Liu Mo and couldn't help exclaiming, sure enough, you guys don't know what's good for you. As soon as he finished speaking, another deafening crack rang out, and a scarlet tongue of lightning shot toward Yin Ruoyan. It was so fast that Yin Ruoyan had no time to dodge. Yin Ruoyan gritted her teeth and used the Qi Tong in front of her to block the attack, but she was immediately sent flying into the side of the White Mountain by the force of the lightning tongue. Large chunks of rock fell to the ground and white dust flew into the air. At the same time, within the city lord's manor, Liu Mo was sitting cross-legged on his bed, the middle finger of his right hand resting on his knee trembling. Liu Mo had dripped a drop of his blood onto the qilin beads, and whenever Yin Ruoyan was in grave danger, his finger would tremble. Within a short distance, Liu Mo could determine Yin Ruoyan's location and rush over to save her, but this time, Yin Ruoyan was too far away for him to do so. Yin, where are you? Liu Mo opened his eyes, his inky black pupils glinting with an eerie light. When Yin Ruoyan's feet touched the ground, her knees buckled, and she half knelt on the ground, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Without giving her the slightest chance to catch her breath, another whip lashed out. She barely managed to block it with her scarlet eye, but her body was once again sent flying into the mountain wall. This time she didn't even have the strength to stand up. At this moment she was lying on the ground with wounds all over her body. Her white clothes were soaked in blood and she looked like a bloody person. Her spiritual sea, which had just healed not long ago, had ruptured again. With only a level 9 cultivation he was actually able to withstand 2 of my full power whips. This is really beyond my expectations. Thunderbolt Badian muttered to himself. After all, he was a 2nd level sword saint, and he had thought that he would be able to kill Xuanhuan with a single whip. Who would have thought that she would still be alive after 2 whips? That sword must have saved her. Thunderbolt Badian looked at the scarlet eye in Xuanhuan's hands. Even though Xuanhuan knew that she was powerless to resist, she still used the last of her strength to prop herself up. She leaned against the mountain wall, her eyes staring unblinkingly at Thunderbolt Badian. Thunderbolt Badian was also staring at this incredibly petite, yet incredibly stubborn woman. When their gazes met, he suddenly saw 2 red flashes in Xuanhuan's eyes. Then he saw something strange happen to Xuanhuan's body. Tiny, scale-like substances began to emerge from the wounds on her forehead and face, covering her wounds like a protective membrane. What kind of technique is this? Thunderbolt Badian was puzzled. At the same time he raised the whip in his hand once more. To him, the best way to deal with things that he couldn't control was to destroy them. Brother, wouldn't it be a pity to kill her just like that? Thunderbolt Badian asked from behind Thunderbolt Badian. A person who can't be controlled is no better than a dead person, Thunderbolt Badian replied coldly as he lashed out with his whip. Xuanhuan could clearly see the whip coming at her with a murderous aura, but strangely she didn't feel the slightest bit of fear. Instead, she felt as if something was happening to her body, and this change had completely wiped out her fear of the world. Just as the whip was about to hit Xuanhuan, a black figure suddenly appeared out of nowhere and stood in front of Xuanhuan, blocking the fatal blow for her. How are you? Can you still stand up? The Count of Feng asked Xuanhuan, his entire body wrapped in a black robe. Xuanhuan, however, remained in a daze, not responding at all. Thunderbolt Count frowned. He turned around to pick Xuanhuan up, but he suddenly felt a sharp attack coming from behind. Thunderbolt Count turned around and waved his sleeves, dispersing the attack. Without another word, a yellow sword aura appeared beneath Thunderbolt Count's feet, and he leapt into the air to leave. Who are you? How dare you interfere in the affairs of the Thunderbolt family? Another figure suddenly appeared on a golden sword aura and blocked Thunderbolt Count's path. Father. Thunderbolt Badian and Thunderbolt Badian called out at the same time. Thunderbolt Badian had sent a message to Thunderbolt Flame when he brought his men here. This or vein was the Thunderbolt family's largest, and Thunderbolt Flame viewed it with great importance. Coincidentally, he'd seen Thunderbolt Count leaving with Xuanhuan. Father, this woman has a saint-grade spirit crystal on her. We mustn't let her escape. Thunderbolt Badian exclaimed. Thunderbolt Flame frowned and took out a golden saber. He could tell that the other party's cultivation wasn't any lower than his own, so he was very cautious. Thunderbolt Count's gaze also shifted. He'd come at Li Mo's request to save Xuanhuan, but he hadn't expected to attract Thunderbolt Flame's attention. When Thunderbolt Flame appeared, Thunderbolt Count had actually considered giving up on Xuanhuan. However, when Pai Badian mentioned the Saint-Grade Spirit Crystal, he became even more determined to save Xuanhuan. If the Pai family could obtain the Saint-Grade Spirit Crystal, their position as the hegemon of the Dark Abyss continent would be unshakable. Thunderbolt Count turned into a streak of yellow light and flew toward the horizon. Thunderbolt Flame turned into a streak of golden light and chased after him. At the same time, Zhuifeng and Lin Qingxue were also flying through the sky. Suddenly, 2 sword auras flashed above their heads, and they began to fight in midair. Zhuifeng could sense that these 2 powerful auras weren't something he could afford to provoke. For safety's sake, he immediately landed on the ground, concealed his aura, and hid in a bush with Lin Qingxue. At the same time, the 2 sword auras stopped as if they were negotiating something. Zhuifeng saw that one of them was carrying a person in his arms. Before he could see Lin Qingxue clearly, he whispered, "Brother Zhua, it's Sister Ruoyan." The person in the black-robed man's arms is Sister Ruoyan. Zhuifeng immediately pressed Lin Qingxue down to the ground. In front of 2 cultivators several ranks higher than him, even the slightest movement could be detected. However, both Thunderbolt Count and Thunderbolt Flame's attention was on Xuanhuan, or more accurately, on the Saint-Grade Spirit Crystal on her. The general gist of their discussion was that they were afraid that their attacks would be too destructive, and that they might accidentally destroy Xuanhuan and the Spirit Crystal on her. As a result, they had to settle Xuanhuan first before fighting again, and the victor would be able to leave with Xuanhuan and the Saint Great Spirit Crystal on her. Thunderbolt Count placed Xuanhuan on an empty patch of land, but Xuanhuan's eyes were still wide open and she didn't react at all. "I'm curious to see someone on the Xuanhuan continent with the same level of cultivation as me," Thunderbolt Flame remarked. "My lonely days of seeking defeat have finally come to an end." As soon as Thunderflame finished speaking, he gripped his golden saber and turned into a streak of golden light as he attacked Count of Wind. Count of Wind turned into a yellow streak of light as he fought against Thunderflame in midair. Their cultivations were about the same, and their moves were also extremely powerful. For a moment, the energy released from their battle lit up half the sky as if it were daytime. While the two of them were engaged in battle, Zhui Yifeng and Lin Qingxue took the opportunity to rush to where Xuanhuan was lying. Without a word, Zhui Yifeng carried Xuanhuan on his back and ran, Lin Qingxue following closely behind. Flying on a sword would be faster, but they were too obvious a target, so running on foot was the best option. As expected, they ran for more than half a kilometer without being discovered. Not daring to relax, the two of them continued to run. Thunderbolt Flame and Thunderbolt Count fought from the sky to the ground, and the battle grew more and more intense. Thunderbolt Flame was a metal-attuned cultivator, known for his powerful attacks. Even so, Thunderbolt Count wasn't at a disadvantage, but it was still impossible for him to defeat his opponent. Where's that girl?" Thunderbolt Flame suddenly realized that Xuanhuan, who had been lying quietly on the ground, had disappeared without a trace. He stopped fighting and turned to Thunderbolt Count. "I don't know. Perhaps she woke up on her own and escaped," Thunderbolt Count replied in a low voice. As long as Xuanhuan didn't fall into Thunderbolt Flame's hands, he would have achieved his goal. Thunder Flame snorted coldly and was about to search for it, but Count of Wind stood in front of him to stop him. Thunder Flame couldn't get away for a while. "What belongs to the Thunderbolt family can't fall into the hands of others. You forced my hand." Thunder Flame raised the golden blade in his hand and poured all of his spiritual energy into it. The blade shone brightly, even more dazzling than the sun in the day. Everything within a radius of 4 to 5 kilometers was enveloped by this golden light, even Zhui Yifeng and Lin Qingxue. Then a bolt of lightning struck Thunderflame's golden blade. The golden blade was covered in countless electric tongues as it slashed towards Feng Bo. Thunderbolt Flame's speed was so fast that he turned into a streak of light and fled. Thunderflame did not give chase. Instead, he wielded his golden saber in midair and slashed it down in different directions within a 2-mile radius. Every time he slashed down with his saber, countless lightning bolts would appear in the sky and strike the ground. Zhui Yifeng and Lin Qingxue were surrounded by lightning bolts all around them, splitting the earth and rocks in their wake. Chased by the lightning, the two of them ran as fast as they could. Even when there was a steep slope in front of them, they couldn't avoid it in time. Then the two of them rolled down the slope with Xuanhuan. Chapter 362. The three of them rolled down the slope, and the lightning struck a nearby boulder, causing a landslide to appear. The three of them were buried in the mud and rocks. Thunderflame and Fengbua searched the charred wilderness for most of the night, but they couldn't find any trace of Xuanhuan. Thinking that she'd been turned to ash by the lightning, they gave up searching and went their separate ways. Just as the two of them left, it started raining heavily. The rainwater washed away the soil, washing Xuanhuan, Zhui Yifeng, and Lin Qingxue out of the mud. Zhui Yifeng sat up and took a deep breath. After relieving himself of the suffocating feeling, he hurriedly checked on Xuanhuan and Lin Qingxue. Xuanhuan's eyes were still open, and she didn't even react when the rainwater hit her eyes. Lin Qingxue's face had turned green and she couldn't breathe. Zhui Yifeng hurriedly injected spiritual energy into Lin Qingxue's mouth to save her. Zhui Yifeng stood up and was just about to pull Lin Qingxue up when the rumbling of rocks rang out. Several large boulders tumbled down from the top of the slope. Zhui Yifeng didn't have time to escape, so he used his body to protect them. At dawn the next day, a group of 4 carriages passed by this place. The people in the carriages saw that the surroundings were scorched as if there was a big fire. However, there was clearly a heavy rain last night, so how could such a big fire start? Auntie Hong, there must have been a battle between experts here last night. Hoodlum rode up to Auntie Hong's carriage. Auntie Hong opened the curtains and looked around, then signaled for the carriage to stop. Auntie Hong stepped out of the carriage, her red shoes stepping on the scorched ground. She squatted down and pinched a handful of soil in her hand, then said to Hoodlum, "It's a lightning-attracting technique that only a 5th-rank sword saint can use." Was it the head of the Thunderflame family, Thunderflame? Hoodlum blurted out. Other than him, I don't know who else on the continent could use a lightning-attracting technique, Auntie Hong said as she prepared to return to her carriage. Hey look, there's someone in the soil. Little Qing's voice suddenly rang out. When Zhuo Yifeng woke up, he found himself lying in an unfamiliar house. His head was wrapped in gauze and a mountain rock had fallen on his head, knocking him unconscious. You're awake. Just as Zhuo Yifeng was about to get off the bed, Little Qing walked in. Who are you? Where was this? Where are my companions? Zhuo Yifeng asked repeatedly, his expression vigilant. Little Qing furrowed her brows. Unlike her usual talkative self, she said to Zhuo Yifeng, "Follow me." As soon as he exited the house, Zhuo Yifeng realized that he was at a relay station. The place he had been lying on was a guest room, so he guessed that he had been rescued by someone on the road. However, he still remained vigilant. Qing brought Zhuo Yifeng to another guest room, within which sat two unfamiliar women. On the bed in the middle of the room were two more women, Yun Ruoyan and Lin Qingxue. Ruoyan, Qingxue. Zhuo Yifeng hurried forward to check on the two of them. Lin Qingxue's head was also wrapped in gauze, and there were traces of blood on the gauze. Her breathing was steady and she hadn't woken up from her coma, but her life wasn't in danger. Yun Ruoyan's face, head and even body were covered in blood, but strangely there wasn't a single wound. What was even stranger was that her eyes were still open without blinking. Who are these two to you? Which one is Qingxue and which one is Ruoyan? Auntie Hong asked. Who are you? Zhuo Yifeng looked at Auntie Hong. We're the ones who saved you, Little Qing said angrily. Then she turned to Auntie Hong and said, Auntie Hong, if that bunny is called Yun Ruoyan, then the one beside her must be Qingxue. How do you know? Hoodlum asked curiously. The bunny told me before, but I didn't pay much attention to it, Little Qing said angrily. Little Qing said angrily, I thought she was just an ordinary child, but now it seems that she isn't. This time Yun Ruoyan's sudden disappearance was still Qing's greatest worry. She had searched the entirety of Thunderbolt City for several days, but to no avail. Only after Zhuo Yifeng learned from Qing that Yun Ruoyan was in the troop did he relax his guard around the three youths in front of him. However, he still didn't reveal their identities. He wasn't confident that they wouldn't report him to the Thunderbolt household for money. Auntie Hong and the others didn't pursue the matter any further, waiting for Yun Ruoyan to wake up. After returning to Thunderbolt City, Thunderbolt Badian recounted the strange events that had occurred to Yun Ruoyan's body. Father, what kind of technique is that? How can a scale-like substance emerge from a wound and instantly heal a person's wounds? Thunderbolt Badian asked Thunderbolt Badian. Thunderbolt frowned and didn't speak for a long time. After a while, he suddenly stood up from his chair and left in a hurry, leaving behind a puzzled Thunderbolt Badian. Thunderbolt returned to his own room and opened a secret chamber. On top of a stone pedestal was an ancient-looking mirror. This was the mirror that had controlled a large group of cultivators that day. Thunderflame, who was standing before the Skyfall mirror, reached out with his hand to touch the surface of the mirror. Suddenly, the surface of the mirror rippled. When the ripples returned to normal, a hooded figure in silver robes appeared in the mirror. What business do you have with me? The figure asked. Elder Silver Dragon, Thunderbolt replied respectfully. Last night, I encountered a young girl who had the ability to heal her wounds on her own. I suspect that she has the bloodline of a demonic dragon, as only a member of the demonic dragon race would be able to heal her wounds on her own. Back then, I was ordered to capture Longyin, but his wife managed to escape. She was already pregnant at the time, and I suspect that the girl was Longyin's child. What about the girl? The Silver Dragon Elder asked. I killed her, Thunderbolt replied. Last night I used a lightning-attracting spell. Not a single creature within a 5-kilometer radius survived. If she really is Longyin's child, your lightning-attracting spell won't be able to kill her. Find her and bring her to me. On the morning of the third day, Yun Ruoyan finally closed her eyes and entered a state of cultivation. With the help of a sagely spirit crystal, after 2 days and 2 nights, Yun Ruoyan successfully broke through to peak 9th rank. During this time, Zhuo Yifeng and Lin Qingxue stood guard by her side, not letting anyone near her. What kind of person is this bunny? Not only was she able to heal herself from such a serious injury, but she was even able to cultivate to a new level. Hoodlum exclaimed incredulously. A friend, not an enemy. That's enough, Auntie Hong replied. Yun Ruoyan finally opened her eyes, and 2 beams of red light flashed through them. Sister Ruoyan, are you awake? Lin Qingxue looked at her sister's open eyes and asked uncertainly. Yes. Yun Ruoyan turned to Lin Qingxue. Sister Ruoyan, you're finally awake. You scared me to death. Lin Qingxue cried tears of joy. Zhuo Yifeng hurriedly walked up to Yun Ruoyan's bed. When he saw that her eyes had regained their vigor, a smile finally appeared on his solemn face. Are you hungry? Zhuo Yifeng blurted out. Yun Ruoyan shook her head. At 9th rank she would be able to abstain from eating. From then on she would be able to say goodbye to hunger. Qingxue, help me call Auntie Hong, Hoodlum and little Qing over, Yun Ruoyan instructed. Tell them that I'm awake and have something to say to them. Before long, all three of them were summoned to Yun Ruoyan's room by Lin Qingxue. Are you feeling better? Auntie Hong asked Yun Ruoyan politely. I'm completely fine now. Yun Ruoyan looked at Auntie Hong and said, thank you for saving me twice. Sister Qingqing, I'm sorry for leaving without saying goodbye last time. Yun Ruoyan turned to little Qing. I didn't mean to lie to you either. I was just trying to protect myself. Ah. Little Qing sighed. She was clearly angry, but Yun Ruoyan had been unconscious for the past few days. Now that Yun Ruoyan was awake, her anger had long since dissipated. It's not easy to survive on this continent, and nothing can compare to living a good life. But on account of how much I've taken care of you, can you tell me who you really are? We're actually... Yun Ruoyan prepared to reveal her true identity without hesitation, but Zhuo Yifeng hurriedly cut her off. Ruoyan, you can't. It's fine. Yun Ruoyan turned to Zhuo Yifeng. Not only are the three of you my saviors, but you're also my trustworthy sisters. As a result, Yun Ruoyan told Auntie Hong and the others that she, Lin Qingxue and Zhuo Yifeng, were all from a lowly continent. You're all servants of the Thunder family? Little Qing asked in surprise. That's only because the Thunder family has always been willing. We didn't sell ourselves to them, Lin Qingxue protested. Well said. Hoodlum slammed the table. Why should we be their slaves just because we can't beat them? We must resist to the end. This time it was Yun Ruoyan and the others who stared at Hoodlum in shock. Hoodlum and the others were natives of this continent, and no matter how low their statuses were, they were still higher than slaves from a lowly continent. They truly hadn't expected Hoodlum to say such a thing. You don't have to be surprised, Hoodlum replied. The Thunder family's cruelty isn't limited to just you. They're also merciless to the smaller families that refuse to submit to their rule. His expression was one of obvious anger and hatred. Sister Hoodlum, Yun Ruoyan said, from your tone, it seems like you have a grudge with the Thunder family? Not just a grudge, Auntie Hong, who had been silent all this time, finally spoke up. That's the grudge of killing their parents and exterminating their entire clan. Chapter 363. Hearing Auntie Hong say this, Yun Ruoyan and the others all looked at her. Me, Hoodlum, little Qing, and all the other girls in the troop weren't born as lowly commoners of the Dark Abyss continent. We were nobles with our own families, Auntie Hong continued. Her eyes flashed slightly, but her expression didn't change in the slightest. This kind of strict emotional management was something that could only be achieved after a long period of training. But our families were destroyed by the Thunderbolt family, Hoodlum continued angrily, and we became lowly commoners as a result. Through Auntie Hong and Hoodlum's narration, Yun Ruoyan learned that they originally had their own family. But, as the Thunderbolt family expanded, they implemented a tyrannical policy of suppression. Any family that opposed them or didn't want to submit to them were brutally suppressed. All adult family members were killed, the boys were enslaved, and the girls were sold as prostitutes. The girls in the troop were all the young ladies who opposed the Thunderbolt family. We were sold to different places and became prostitutes, little Qing said slowly. Xiaoqing's eyes drooped as she slowly said, it was all thanks to Auntie Hong and Hoodlum that we sisters were able to escape from that hell. Now we even have a place to stay. Yun Ruoyan looked at Auntie Hong, who was sitting quietly. She had completely restrained her emotions, and her expression was as calm as ever. Yun Ruoyan knew that Auntie Hong was just a title she used to refer to her. She looked to be in her early 20s, not much older than little Qing, but she gave off the feeling that she had experienced many vicissitudes of life and maturity. Her facial features were actually delicate and pretty, but her red clothes and heavy makeup hid her original temperament, giving others a false impression of seduction. Miss and I are master and servant. Hoodlum glanced at Auntie Hong and said, because the two of us are quite strong, we were able to escape while we were being sold. After Hoodlum and Auntie Hong escaped, they roamed the Dark Abyss continent with some of the family's treasures that they had secretly hidden. In the process they saved little Qing and the 20 or so girls in the troop. Auntie Hong had set up a troop in order to make it easier to move around and to fool others. The Thunderbolt family really is evil, Lin Qingxue said angrily. Lin Qingxue said angrily, I thought that they only targeted us from the so-called lowly continents. I didn't think that even the natives of the Dark Abyss continent couldn't escape their persecution. The Thunderbolt clan only cares about power and benefits. Hoodlum said, as long as one offends them in these two areas, no matter who it is, they will suffer a calamity. It's not just the Thunder clan. Little Qing sneered, the 7 clans fight openly and covertly, snatching and snatching. Which one of them is easy to deal with? It's just that the Thunderbolt clan is a bit more ruthless. The members of the performance team had always wanted to take revenge on the Thunder clan. However, the Thunder clan was too strong and they were just weak women. Thus, they could only bury this hatred deep in their hearts. Since the 7 cities are at odds with each other on the surface, why don't you seek refuge with one of them? Perhaps you'll have a chance to take revenge in the future, Xuanhuan said. Auntie Hong faintly sighed. We also thought of seeking refuge with one of the other 6 cities, but the other 6 cities have an extremely ambiguous attitude towards Thunderclap City. In an uncertain situation, we didn't dare to entrust our lives to them. If we took the wrong step, then the lives of those 20+ sisters and the last bloodline of our 20+ families would all be destroyed. Auntie Hong's words made everyone's hearts sink. It wasn't easy to survive in a chaotic world, and if a powerful enemy was added to the mix, they would have to tread on thin ice. All these years, our hatred for the Thunderbolt clan hasn't lessened in the slightest. In fact, it'll only deepen with time, Auntie Hong said to Xuanhuan. Auntie Hong looked at Xuanhuan and said, so you and your friends can rest assured that we will not betray you to the Thunderbolt family. After learning of the girls' backgrounds, Zhuo Yifeng let down his guard around them, and Xuanhuan and the others decided to stay with the troop for the time being. Xuanhuan's internal and external injuries had mostly healed, and she had broken through to the peak of 9th rank while she was unconscious. But at the same time, she discovered that her body was undergoing some unexplainable changes. For example, the spiritual energy in her spiritual vortex used to be pure white, but when it transformed into fire-attuned spiritual energy, it would turn red. Now, however, a portion of the spiritual energy in her spiritual vortex would turn black without her realizing it. This frightening black energy made Xuanhuan feel uneasy. Xuanhuan also knew that she had a self-healing ability, but when she deliberately cut her skin with a knife, there were no signs of self-healing. Xuanhuan was puzzled by this and she turned to Qiuqiu for an explanation. However, Qiuqiu only knew that this was related to the demonic dragon bloodline in Xuanhuan's body. As for what the exact relationship was, Qiuqiu wasn't sure, but it was certain that it had something to do with the art of the divine dragon that Xuanhuan cultivated. The sliver of dragon power that the demonic eye had left in Xuanhuan had allowed her to cultivate the art of the divine dragon, and it was precisely because of this cultivation that Xuanhuan's body had undergone such a series of changes. Xuanhuan and Qiuqiu agreed that they should find Li Mo as soon as possible and find the cause of these changes from the art of the divine dragon that he had on him. The troop was currently resting in a small town between Thunder City and Wind City. This town was still part of Thunder City, and the troop's next destination was Wind City. Xuanhuan had to go to Thunder City to find Li Mo, so she bade farewell to Auntie Hong and prepared to leave in 2 days' time. The next day Xuanhuan and Hoodlum went out shopping as usual. There they saw the guards of the city posting portraits of escaped slaves on the walls, and the portrait was of Xuanhuan. The two of them immediately returned to the inn. Since the situation in Thunder City was still tense, it wasn't wise for them to risk their lives. As a result, Xuanhuan's plan to return to Thunder City was temporarily put on hold. In the city lord's manor, Li Mo had locked himself up in the woodshed for several days. Just a few nights ago, the brocade-robed man had brought him a piece of shocking news. Xuanhuan had been killed by Thunderflame using a lightning-attracting technique, and not even her bones had been left. Li Mo had spat out a mouthful of blood, but he quickly realized that Xuanhuan couldn't be dead. He could still sense the aura of the Azure Sword even if it was very weak. Xuanhuan had kept the Azure Sword in her pocket dimension. If Xuanhuan were to die, then the bracelet would become an ownerless object and seal itself. Li Mo wouldn't be able to sense the aura of anything within it until someone opened it again. However, Li Mo could still sense the aura of the Azure Sword, so he was certain that Xuanhuan was still alive. It was just that she was too far away from him. These past few days, Li Mo had locked himself up in the woodshed, using his mental energy to search for the Azure Sword's location. Once he found the sword, he also found Xuanhuan. Only when Yun Ruoyan's portrait was plastered all over the city did the Count of Feng and the brocade-robed man realize that Yun Ruoyan wasn't dead. That night, the brocade-robed man once again snuck into the city lord's manor to inform Liu Mo of the news, but was told by Lin Qingchen that Liu Mo was in seclusion. The brocade-robed man couldn't help but sigh when he recalled how Liu Mo had spat out blood that day. To think that this girl would be so important to Liu Mo. When he returned, he proposed to the head of the Feng family the idea of helping Liu Mo find Yun Ruoyan, and the head of the Feng family agreed. After a few days and nights of searching with his mental energy, Liu Mo finally confirmed the location of the azure light sword. When he awoke from his meditative state, he immediately left the manor alone and began searching in the direction he had been searching. In the middle of the night, Liu Mo's figure appeared in the small town where Yun Ruoyan and the others were staying. At the moment, Yun Ruoyan was cultivating in her room. With the help of a sagely spirit crystal, Yun Ruoyan didn't need to deliberately condense her spiritual energy. As long as she didn't expend a large amount of it, her spiritual vortex would always be filled with spiritual energy. However, a portion of this spiritual energy would automatically turn black every day, and Yun Ruoyan had spent the last few days trying to figure out the difference between this black spiritual energy and the white spiritual energy. Just as Yun Ruoyan was concentrating on her spiritual vortex, she suddenly heard a chirping sound. Mistress, I can sense Liu Mo's aura. Yun Ruoyan opened her eyes immediately. She too had sensed Liu Mo's aura not far from her. Yun Ruoyan got off the bed, opened the door, and a red sword aura appeared beneath her feet. The sword aura carried Yun Ruoyan into the air, hovering in midair. Liu Mo felt the aura getting closer and closer. He looked around and saw a red sword aura in the distance. That aura was so familiar. Liu Mo called out Yun Ruoyan's name in a hoarse voice. Yun Ruoyan also saw the green sword aura beneath Liu Mo's feet. At the same time, she felt the dragon-engraved sword in her bracelet begin to tremble violently, as if it had sensed its master's arrival. Yun Ruoyan opened the pocket dimension in her silver bracelet, and the sword turned into a streak of green light as it sped toward Liu Mo. Liu Mo reached out and caught the sword in his hand, and a low dragon's roar emanated from the sword. "Thank you for bringing me to Yen," Liu Mo said softly to the sword, then stored it back into his body. Liu Mo Yun Ruoyan's tears began to well up in her eyes. Liu Mo's figure was rushing toward her, and before her tears could fall, she was enveloped in a warm embrace. A stream of tears fell from Yun Ruoyan's eyes onto Liu Mo's chest, drenching the front of his robe. Yener. Liu Mo called out Yun Ruoyan's name hoarsely, over and over again, as if afraid that the person in his arms wasn't real. Yun Ruoyan struggled slightly as she raised her head to look into Liu Mo's eyes. His ink-black eyes were filled with so much emotion, as if they were two deep pools that drew Yun Ruoyan in. Yun Ruoyan couldn't help reaching out to caress Liu Mo's chiseled face. His face was slightly pale and his lips were red. "Liu Mo, I missed you so much," Yun Ruoyan murmured softly. As she spoke, she tiptoed and kissed Liu Mo on the lips. Chapter 364. Yun Ruoyan's kiss was like a spark that ignited Liu Mo's yearning for her. Liu Mo reached out and grabbed Yun Ruoyan's waist, lifting her up and pressing her against his body, as if trying to fuse her into his own. Yun Ruoyan's yearning for Liu Mo was no less than his own. Driven by the mutual desire between them, the dual cultivation technique began to take effect. White spiritual energy had already seeped out of Liu Mo's spiritual vortex through his meridians and meridians, enveloping the two of them. "Liu Mo, we can't stay here." Liu Mo's kiss became more and more intense, causing Yun Ruoyan to feel a little dizzy. Even so, she managed to maintain some semblance of consciousness. "I'm not familiar with this area. Do you know where the safest place is?" Liu Mo asked hoarsely. If they returned to the relay station, they would surely be alerted. "There's a forest to the west." Before Yun Ruoyan could finish her sentence, Liu Mo picked her up and sped toward the western mountains. This was the place where Yun Ruoyan's azure light sword had landed when she first arrived at the dark abyss. In the dark, quiet forest, the cries of birds and beasts could be heard from time to time. On a flat patch of grass, two bodies were hugging each other tightly. Their bodies were enveloped in white spiritual energy, as if they were cocoons that were protecting them. After a moment of extreme pleasure, Yun Ruoyan once again sank into the familiar sensation of being enveloped by warm seawater, comfortable and peaceful. After an indeterminate amount of time, Yun Ruoyan suddenly felt the seawater around her slowly grow hotter and hotter. "It's hot, Liu Mo, it's hot," Yun Ruoyan murmured in pain. Or what's wrong? Liemo had also noticed Xuanhuan's abnormality. Her initially serene expression had become somewhat pained, and her body was burning hotter and hotter. A thin layer of sweat covered her entire body, as if she were being roasted by fire. And at this moment, a strange scene happened. Liemo could see a black mist seeping out of Xuanhuan's body, slowly swallowing up the white mist that Liemo's body was emitting. The two of them were slowly enveloped by the black mist. Yener. Liemo called out her name and she finally opened her eyes. They were a pair of scarlet-red eyes, and Liemo's expression was one of disbelief. When Xuanhuan woke up, the sky was just beginning to brighten. As soon as she opened her eyes, she smelled the rich aroma of meat. As soon as she sat up, she saw Liemo standing by the fire, roasting a pheasant over the fire. "You're awake?" Liemo turned and smiled at her. "Yes." Xuanhuan smiled and walked over to Liemo's side. Liemo tore off a piece of the roasted pheasant and handed it to Xuanhuan, who began eating it carefully. The taste was excellent, but the hunger was gone, and there was no more of the thrill of swallowing one's tongue. "I'm full." After finishing a small piece, Liemo offered it back to her, but she waved it away. "Yener." Liemo placed the unfinished roasted meat on the ground and looked at Xuanhuan. "Did you know what happened while we were dual cultivating last night?" Xuanhuan looked back at Liemo. She first nodded, then shook her head. "I could sense that something was amiss, but I didn't know what." As a result, Liemo recounted everything that had transpired the night before. "After I stopped cultivating, the black mist retreated back into your body," Liemo continued. "I probed your spiritual vortex further and discovered that there was a large amount of black spiritual energy within it. Do you know where it came from?" Liemo's tone and expression were both worried. "I was just about to tell you about it," Xuanhuan replied. Xuanhuan began to explain to Liemo how she had followed the caged carts from Thunderbolt City to Liemo. She described her battle with the long-faced man, as well as how the demonic eye had left her with the demonic dragon's power in order to protect her, and how she had begun to cultivate the demonic dragon technique with that power. She hoped that Liemo would be able to find some clues from this. "After my battle with the long-faced man, I broke through to 9th rank, Xuanhuan began. Then, at the Beastkin's invitation, I went with them to the Spirit Crystal Mine, where I fought with Thunderbolt Badian." Liemo frowned. "How could you have been his match?" Liemo was quite angry at Xuanhuan's risky behavior. One was a 9th rank blade master, while the other was a 2nd rank peak blade master. They were on completely different levels. To Xuanhuan, Thunderbolt Badian was like an adult to a child, and she had no way of resisting him. "Of course I wasn't his match," Xuanhuan replied. "I also thought that I was going to die, but just as I was on the verge of death, I felt the incantations of the art of the divine dragon in my body begin to circulate on their own. When I didn't do anything, it started to heal the injuries I suffered. From the inside to the outside, from the spirit ocean to the external injuries on my body, everything was healing itself. I felt as if my body and consciousness had been separated." Xuanhuan frowned, her expression perplexed. During this process she didn't feel any pain or fear, as if she had been separated from the rest of the world. "While I was healing, a black-clothed man rushed over and stopped Thunderbolt Badian's assassin. After that, the two of them fought and Zhuifeng carried me away. We were buried in the sand until the performing arts team came to rescue us." Xuanhuan lowered her eyes. "Although I was aware of what was happening in the outside world, I acted as if it had nothing to do with me. By the time my body was almost completely healed, my consciousness had fallen into an illusion." "What illusion?" By then, Liemo had already walked up to Xuanhuan's side. Sensing her nervousness, he held her hand and looked into her eyes. No matter what it is, I hope you can tell me so that I can share your burden." After a long while, Xuanhuan finally spoke. "In the illusion, I saw a battle between the demonic dragons and the silver dragons. The demonic dragons and the silver dragons were originally two forces that mutually restrained each other in the extreme abyss continent. Both of them wanted to become the rulers of the extreme abyss continent, and so a war for the right to rule arose between the two sides. The demonic dragons weren't a match for the silver dragons, and they were forced to retreat from the extreme abyss continent to the black abyss, and then from there to the Xuanhuan continent. This battle lasted for hundreds of years. The silver dragons received help from the humans of the Xuanhuan continent, and in the end, the demon dragons were completely defeated by the combined forces of the humans and the silver dragons. Through the illusion, Xuanhuan saw with her own eyes that the silver dragons had slaughtered the demonic dragons, incinerating their corpses. In the raging inferno, the inky black dragons were reduced to ash. Although the silver dragons could destroy the demonic dragons' physical bodies, they couldn't destroy their souls, and could only seal them on the Xuanhuan continent. Due to the fact that the seal was permanent, both humans and silver dragons had almost forgotten about it after thousands of years. That was until a few hundred years ago when the demonic dragon's souls suddenly awakened, awakening the demonic dragon bloodline that they had left behind on the Xuanhuan continent. From the illusion, Xuanhuan finally learned that a large portion of this so-called demonic dragon bloodline was the offspring of the demonic dragons, who had forced human females to mate with them. At first, these people were half human, half dragon, but as they continued to mate with humans, the dragon bloodline in their bodies dwindled. In the end, only a small portion of the demonic dragon bloodline remained pure, including Xuanhuan's father, Long Yin, and Xuanhuan herself. Over the past few centuries, as the silver dragons hunted down the demonic dragon bloodline, many descendants of the demonic dragon bloodline have perished. Today, I'm perhaps the only one who still possesses the demonic dragon bloodline, Xuanhuan murmured. There was an indescribable desolation in her voice. You still have me. Liemo could feel the desolation in her voice. You're already married to me and you're no longer alone. The two of us will always be one. No matter what happens in the future, I'll face it with you. Liemo looked at Xuanhuan resolutely, and Xuanhuan nodded back resolutely. Liemo, Xuanhuan began. No matter what happens in the future, I'll face it with you, Xuanhuan replied. Chapter 365. Lin Qingchen, Qin Feng and Lin Tianming were all at the city lord's manor. If Liemo were to disappear, the three of them would surely be implicated, so Liemo had to return as soon as possible. Liemo, there are some people I'd like you to meet, Xuanhuan said. Liemo saw that her tone and expression were quite serious, and he guessed that it must be someone very important. He followed Xuanhuan to the inn where he met Auntie Hong and the others. Auntie Hong, Hoodlum, Sister Qingqing, Xuanhuan introduced Liemo to the three of them. This is my husband Liemo. When Xuanhuan called him husband, both Little Qing and Hoodlum were shocked. Even Auntie Hong, who usually didn't show her emotions, looked at Liemo a few times. Liemo, they're my benefactors and they've saved my life twice, Xuanhuan continued. In addition, they have a grudge against the Thunderbolt family. They want revenge, but they don't have the means to do so. I heard from you that you and the Feng family have come to an agreement to deal with the Thunderbolt family together, which means that the Feng and Thunderbolt families are truly irreconcilable enemies. If that's the case, could you recommend the troop to the Feng family? As Auntie Hong heard Xuanhuan's words, her calm eyes flashed once more. The troop will definitely do whatever it takes to deal with the Thunderbolt family, Auntie Hong replied. Although we don't have an advantage in terms of cultivation, we've spent many years with the various families in the 7 cities, and we've gained some understanding of them. If the Feng family is willing to accept us, we'll surely be of great use to them. Little Qing and Hoodlum were also very excited. They had thought that they would never have a chance to exact revenge in their lifetime, but the opportunity presented itself so quickly. All right, I'll recommend you to the Feng family, Liemo agreed. You two stay here for now and wait for news from the Feng family. After Xuanhuan sent Liemo off, Liemo began to tell Xuanhuan about Lin Tianming. Xuanhuan was naturally very excited, and she couldn't wait to bring Lin Qingxue and Liemo to pay a visit to her long-lost uncle. I didn't mention it until now precisely because I didn't want you to worry about me. Liemo followed Xuanhuan's lead and addressed Lin Tianming as her uncle. As long as you bring us along, we'll be careful. Xuanhuan tried to convince Liemo, no. Let's not even talk about how heavily guarded the city lord's manor is. Right now, the entire Thunderbolt city is looking for you. You're not allowed to do something as dangerous as saving Zhui Yifeng and Lin Qingxue on your own. It would be best if we can get Uncle out of the city lord's mansion. Liemo replied, the city lord's manor isn't suitable for him to recuperate. It'd be best if we could think of a way to get him out. Just as the two of them were pondering this question, Xiuqiu's voice appeared in Xuanhuan's mind. Isn't that easy? Xiuqiu, do you have a plan? Xuanhuan asked. Of course, it's a piece of cake, Xiuqiu said confidently. On the night that Liemo returned, he met with the brocade-robed man and told him about the troop. Coincidentally, the brocade-robed man had also come to talk to Liemo about the troop. He had discovered this troop while investigating Xuanhuan's whereabouts, and suspected that Xuanhuan was in their hands. Just as he was about to inform Liemo of his suspicions, Liemo spoke up first. So it's an acquaintance? No wonder. The brocade-robed man exclaimed. The Feng family will accept any force that wishes to deal with the Thunderbolt family, but I'll have to consult with the head of the family first. After the brocade-robed man left, Liemo began to meditate. The black spiritual energy in Xuanhuan's body was extremely domineering, and during their dual cultivation, there had been a brief conflict between the two spiritual energies, causing Liemo to suffer some damage. However, this conflict was only temporary, and the impact wasn't too great. Liemo would be able to recover after a short period of rest. The next day, Liemo passed the brocade-robed man's ointment to Lin Qingqian. She needed this ointment for Imo-er's recovery. That day Imo-er had been severely injured, and Liemo had thought that he wouldn't survive. Fortunately, Lin Qingqian had been there, and she had managed to save Imo-er's life. The ointment was extremely effective, and Imo-er recovered very quickly. After 2 or 3 days he was able to fly around the house for a short period of time, and after a few more days he was able to fly normally again. Liemo wanted Imo-er to deliver a letter to Xuanhuan, but it had been so frightened by the cloud-swallowing beast that it didn't dare to fly out of the house. Only after Pai Badian had left the manor with the cloud-swallowing beast did Imo-er finally fly out of the city to deliver a letter to Xuanhuan. This letter was written by Lin Tianming. Perhaps because her hand was too weak to hold the pen, her handwriting was very crooked, and the content was simple. However, the love and concern of an elder for a descendant was clearly felt by both Xuanhuan and Lin Qingxia. The image of a pale, thin, but benevolent elder seemed to appear on the black and white paper. Sister Ruoyan, we have to save Uncle. Lin Qingxia urged. Don't worry. Xuanhuan patted Lin Qingxia's hand. I'll be able to save him very soon. Xuanhuan's reply to Liemo listed a few ingredients for the pill. On the night that Liemo received Xuanhuan's reply, the brocade-robed man once again visited Liemo. You've come at the right time. I have something that I need your help with, Liemo replied. There's no need to be so polite, brotherly. You and I are now on the same boat, the brocade-robed man replied. My name is Feng Yicheng. You can call me by my name in the future. All right, brother Feng. Liemo handed Xuanhuan's list of ingredients to Feng Yicheng. See if you can get your hands on some of these ingredients. Feng Yicheng read through the notes, then folded them neatly and placed them in his sleeve. Only then did he say to Liemo, although these ingredients are rare, the Feng family should be able to procure them. Brotherly, don't worry. That's good. Liemo relaxed a little. Otherwise, no matter how difficult it would be, he would get his hands on these ingredients for Xuanhuan. Brotherly, I'm here because of the troop you mentioned last time, Feng Yicheng began. The head of the family has already agreed to accept the troop for his own use, and he has important plans for them. That's why he's sending me there to train them. I'll be leaving tomorrow, so I'd like you to inform them in advance, lest I offend them. Liemo wrote a letter and had Imo-er deliver it to him, briefly explaining the Feng family and Feng Yicheng's situation. On the third day, Feng Yicheng arrived at the post house and met with Xuanhuan and the troop's girls. Feng Yicheng handed the herbs to Xuanhuan, and she immediately began to concoct the pill. Whether or not she could save Lin Tianming from the Thunderbolt family depended on whether or not she could successfully concoct the pill. Feng Yicheng was handsome and he was quite charming and amiable. As a result, the troop's girls were quite fond of him. He had come on the orders of the head of the Feng family to train them so that they could become an intelligence network that could travel between the various families. Soon, Feng Yicheng discovered that the troop's girls were all excellent spies, and they didn't require any special training at all. Someone must have deliberately trained them. Only later did he learn that it was Auntie Hong who had trained them. Miss Hong. Feng Yicheng was standing in a hallway watching the girls train below. Auntie Hong walked up to him, and he hurriedly bowed respectfully to her. After Feng Yicheng gained some understanding of Auntie Hong, he began to admire her from the bottom of his heart. Young Master Feng, there's no need to be so polite. Auntie Hong's gaze also landed on the girls below. I heard from Ruoyan that you'll be directly in charge of our troop in the future. I wouldn't dare be in charge, but I'm here on behalf of the head of the family to discuss your daily operations. As for other matters, neither the Feng family nor I will interfere too much, Feng Yicheng replied. He was dressed in a brocade robe, and his face was as smooth as jade. He looked like a scion of a wealthy family, but his tone was mature and thoughtful. It was a stark contrast to his appearance, and this made Auntie Hong feel a little strange. There's something I'm curious about, but I'm not sure if I should say it. Please speak, Miss Hong, Feng Yicheng said. When I learned that you were coming, I asked Royan about you. She said that you're a cultivator from a low-rank continent, just like the others. But why do you have such a high status in the Feng family after arriving here? Auntie Hong asked. And you seem to know this place very well. In truth, Auntie Hong's question was Yun Ruoyan's and even Li Mo's. However, everyone had their own secrets. Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo understood this well, so they didn't ask. But Auntie Hong did. That's because I'm a member of the Feng family. Feng Yicheng didn't plan on hiding it. He quickly answered. The first head of the Feng family came to the Dark Abyss continent from a low-rank continent, and then through his own hard work, he established his own empire on this continent. Every 10 years, our family will choose an outstanding clansman from a low-rank continent to come to the Dark Abyss continent and help the Feng family stabilize their business. My uncle, the head steward of the Feng family, Feng Bo, came to the Dark Abyss continent 10 years ago, and then me. In the future, more Feng family members will come from the low-rank continents, and our family will grow stronger and stronger. I see. I didn't think that a family could exist across a low-rank continent and a mid-rank continent, Auntie Hong said. Every head of the Feng family is a person of great wisdom. The Feng family's current status is the result of their hard work, Feng Yicheng said rather proudly. When the day comes, will you become an existence like the Thunder family? Auntie Hong suddenly asked. No, Feng Yicheng immediately denied. Feng Yicheng immediately denied it. Be it the lower continents or the Dark Abyss continent, the Feng family has never exercised tyranny. We hope that we can reduce unnecessary killing under our management and allow everyone to live in peace in the future. If what you say is true, I, Fu Xiaohong, am willing to die for the Feng family with my sisters. A trace of yearning appeared in Auntie Hong's calm eyes. Chapter 366. After a full day and night of condensation, the pill in the cauldron finally took shape. It was a purplish-red pill that emitted a faint, bitter odor. Mistress, just put in the last ingredient, Qiu instructed Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan picked up a stalk of black spiritual herb and ignited a flame in her hand. The stalk slowly turned into powder in her hand. Yun Ruoyan sprinkled the powder onto the purplish-red pill in the cauldron, and the pill immediately changed color, turning from purplish-red to a deep purple. The faint, bitter odor also disappeared. Yun Ruoyan extended her hand toward the cauldron, and the dark purple, odorless pill floated out of the cauldron and into her palm. Mistress, it's a success. Qiu exclaimed excitedly. This is a third-grade pill, a death-like pill. A death-like pill. Yun Ruoyan looked at the pill in her hand, her expression one of excitement. I've finally succeeded. Over the course of a day and a night, Yun Ruoyan had finally succeeded in condensing the pill 3 times, and she now possessed the cultivation of a third-rank pill master. Mistress, if you feed this pill to someone, they'll enter a state of suspended animation, Qiu explained. Qiu explained, within 3 days the person who consumes this medicine will experience a series of symptoms similar to that of a dead person. No one will be able to tell anything. After 3 days, the state of suspended animation will slowly disappear from the person's body, and they'll slowly come back to life. This entire process will take 6 days. The Li father and son are sly. Surely they won't find out? Yun Ruoyan was still a little worried. As long as it concerned her family, Yun Ruoyan would always be so cautious that she would be a little worried. Don't worry, mistress, Qiu added. Once the pill takes effect, it'll accelerate the rate at which the person's body festers. Even a normal physician wouldn't dare approach, let alone the so-called nobles of the Li family. There's no way they'll be discovered. This was a serious matter, and Yun Ruoyan was worried that Emma would encounter a cloud-devouring beast again, so she handed the death-like pill to Feng Yicheng. After receiving the pill, Li Mo fed it to Lin Tianming, then had Lin Qingchen summon the bearded steward. As soon as the steward arrived, Lin Tianming began to spasm and sweat profusely. Soon after, he began foaming at the mouth in front of the steward, his eyes rolled back and he stopped breathing. Since Thunderbolt Badian wasn't in the city lord's mansion, steward who hurriedly went to report this situation to Thunderflame. Lin Tianming was captured by Thunderflame in the past. However, after Long Yin's capture, he had lost his value and was tossed into Lin Tianming's prison like a piece of trash. If not for Li Mo's sudden reminder, he would have forgotten about Long Yin's existence. Dead? Thunderflame opened the red invitation card in his hand and asked without raising his head, "Are you sure? He's really out of breath?" Trembling with fear, the mustache steward said, "He suddenly fell ill right in front of me. Before I could react, he had already breathed his last. If he's dead, then he's dead, Thunderflame said nonchalantly. Do whatever you want with him. Yes, Your Highness. The mustached man turned to leave. The mustached steward usually worked for Thunderflame, so he was a little afraid of Thunderflame. As for the patriarch of the city lord's manor, he was even more afraid of him. Wait. Thunderflame's voice rang out from behind the mustached man. He had only exchanged a few words with Thunderflame, but his back was already drenched in sweat. Patriarch, is there anything else? I'll see to it right away, the mustached man said, suppressing his fear. How's that Liemo? Thunderflame asked. He's already out of the room and there's nothing out of the ordinary about him. Nothing out of the ordinary, Thunderflame muttered to himself. Thunderflame muttered to himself. She must know that Xuanhuan isn't dead, so where is she hiding? How am I supposed to find her? The man with the mustache seemed to have done this on purpose. He didn't immediately dispose of Lin Tianming's body. Lin Tianming's body was left in the woodshed for 2 days. During these 2 days, Lin Tianming's body began to rot, and the stench of decay spread from the woodshed to the courtyard. Only then did the mustached man send someone to carry Lin Tianming away. According to usual practice, the corpse would be thrown into a mass grave to be fed to the dogs. The men were all wearing thick clothes, masks and gloves. Be quick, Mary. The mustached man commanded from outside the door, muttering, Oh my, look at this smell. If it were summer, there'd be maggots. It's only been a few days. It can't be some sort of plague, can it? Lin Xianxia stood to the side and looked at the ring on the middle finger of the mustached man's hand that was covering his mouth and nose. She frowned subconsciously. The spatial ring that Lin Zainan had given her had been taken away by a junior steward, and before Lin Xianxia could retrieve it, it had already fallen into the hands of the mustached man. This courtyard will be sealed for a month, the mustached man announced. In order to prevent the spread of a plague, the people living in this woodshed will not be allowed out for a month. The mustached man turned to leave, feeling rather pleased with himself. If it really was some sort of plague, it would be best if those people died from it, lest his master, Thunderbolt, had to protect them all the time. Thunderbolt and Thunderbolt had suddenly disappeared, and the warriors in the manor were all saying that they were dissatisfied with Thunderbolt's decision to protect Liemo and the other rats from the lower-tier continents. As a result, Thunderbolt's already low standing in the hearts of the warriors grew even lower. What are you looking at? Be careful or I'll dig your eyes out. The man with the mustache noticed Lin Xianxia's gaze on him. His eyes widened and his beard twitched as he scolded her. Lin Xianxia lowered her head, silently contemplating how she could get the ring back from him. Lin Tianming was pushed out of the Thunderbolt Manor by a few servants in a carriage, all the way to the mass grave, where a number of wild dogs were waiting to devour human corpses. The stench of corpses on Lin Tianming's body drifted far away, attracting a pack of wild dogs and wolves to come over. The servants hurriedly carried Lin Tianming off the carriage and tossed him on the ground, then ran out of the mass grave, only to be chased by the wild dogs and wolves. There were a few cries of agony as a streak of sword light suddenly appeared, stabbing 4 or 5 wild beasts to death in an instant, and the rest scattered in disarray. Feng Yicheng walked out from behind a tombstone and walked up to Lin Tianming's side. The stench caused him to involuntarily cover his mouth and nose. He looked at the ash-gray Lin Tianming on the ground. Lin Tianming was so emaciated that he almost didn't look human, and now he looked more like a corpse that had been dead for a very long time. Feng Yicheng couldn't help but wonder, could this person really come back to life? Despite his suspicions, he still took out a gray cloth and wrapped Lin Tianming under his armpit. Sword light appeared beneath his feet as he sped toward the small town where the troop was located. Lin Tianming had also thought that he was dead, so much so that when he opened his eyes and saw 2 beautiful girls smiling at him, he thought that they were maidens from the netherworld. But how could maidens from the netherworld be so pretty? Uncle. Only when Xuanhuan and Lin Xianxia called out to him did he realize that he hadn't died. Not only had he not died, he had even been saved. Xuanhuan, Xianxia. In his excitement, Lin Tianming's eyes, which had long since dried up, actually began to tear up. Many years of imprisonment and illness had numbed him. Although he had always clung to a slim hope of survival, he had long since given up all hope. Unexpectedly, in the midst of his despair, the heavens had given him another chance. After all, the heavens still have eyes, Lin Tianming muttered hoarsely as his tears flowed down his cheeks. After Lin Tianming woke up, he only drank some of the medicine that Xuanhuan had prepared in advance before falling back into a deep slumber. It's all right, uncle. His body's just too weak and he'll slowly recover. Xuanhuan comforted Lin Qingxue. Feng Yiqing had been watching from the side the entire time. In fact, he had been observing Lin Tianming ever since he had brought him back. He had personally seen Lin Tianming slowly recover from the dead, and then miraculously come back to life. His gaze toward Xuanhuan was filled with admiration. He hadn't expected a teenage girl to be able to concoct such a miraculous pill, and he was determined to recommend Xuanhuan to the head of the family. He had a feeling that, compared to Liemo, Xuanhuan would be just as useful. After a few days of rest, Lin Tianming's body gradually recovered. One day Lin Tianming summoned Xuanhuan and Lin Qingqian to his side. The two of them knew that Lin Tianming had something to say to them, and what he wanted to say was exactly what they wanted to ask. Ruoyan, I heard from Liemo a few days ago that you've been investigating the whereabouts of your parents. Now, I'm going to tell you everything I know. Lin Tianming then turned to Lin Qingxue. And Qingxue, regarding your father, Tianhai, I'd like to give you an explanation as well. Yun Ruoyan and Lin Qingxue looked at Lin Tianming and nodded silently, but the nervousness and anticipation in their eyes were intense. Tianhai, Longyin, and Yun Lan, the four of us were very good friends. Lin Tianming slowly recounted the past that had been buried deep in his heart for a very long time. As Lin Tianming recounted the events that had transpired in the past, Yun Ruoyan and Lin Qingqian's eyes began to surface one scene after another. Longyin's public identity was that of a scion from a remote, ordinary family. Because of his exceptional talent for cultivation, he had been sent to the capital in search of an opportunity to study at Kongming Academy. In the process, Longyin had met Lin Tianming, Lin Tianhai, and Yun Lan, becoming good friends with the three of them and living with the Yun family. Later he had met Lin Yuemei and fallen in love with her at first sight. Their relationship had taken place under the witness of the Lin brothers and Yun Lan. Although Longyin had come from a small, unknown family, he had been a perfect match for Lin Yuemei. At first, Lin Zainan had been very opposed to the idea, but under the persuasion of his siblings he had gradually relented. Just as everyone thought that the two of them would become a couple, Longyin suddenly disappeared. Chapter 367. Yun Ruoyan had learned of what happened next from Qin Jianmei. Yun Lan, who had always been in love with Lin Yuemei, took the opportunity to marry her and give birth to Yun Maxiao. A few years later, however, Longyin suddenly reappeared and took Lin Yuemei away. The two of them disappeared for a few months, and during that time Lin Yuemei became pregnant with Yun Ruoyan. Longyin's sudden appearance broke the silence. Lin Tianming began. He found us and confessed his true identity. He was the heir of the legendary demonic dragon bloodline, and his disappearance was because he had been summoned by the demonic dragon's soul to revive them. Reviving the demonic dragon clan wasn't an easy task, and it was highly likely that he would have to pay with his life. Longyin didn't feel that he had such a mission, so he found an opportunity to escape. The Lin brothers knew that their sister was deeply in love with Longyin. Even after marrying Yun Lan, she hadn't been truly happy. Longyin's two brothers, who doted on his sister dearly, arranged for the two of them to meet. After learning of Longyin's difficulties, Lin Yuemei forgave him, and the two of them decided to elope. Naturally, the Lin brothers didn't approve of their decision, but Lin Yuemei threatened to kill herself, and the two of them relented. Longyin said that the demonic dragon clan wouldn't let him go, so they needed to find a safe place to hide. The Yun family wouldn't let the matter rest either, so the group decided to find a place where Longyin and Lin Yuemei could live in seclusion. Lin Tianhai suddenly thought of the alternate dimension at Kongming Academy. At that time, the Lin brothers had already entered Kongming Academy to cultivate, and they had learned how to activate the formation that led to the alternate dimension. As a result, the group sneaked up to Kongming Peak and activated the formation. With Lin Tianming and Lin Tianhai's cultivation, they could only teleport the two of them to an unknown alternate dimension. We thought that would be the end, but we didn't expect that someone would come looking for us so quickly, Lin Tianming began. Did the Demon Dragon clan find you? Yun Ruoyan asked. No. Lin Tianming shook his head. It wasn't the Demonic Dragon clan that came looking for us, but the Silver Dragon clan's lackey, Thunderflame, the current head of the Thunderflame family. Yun Ruoyan wasn't unfamiliar with Thunderflame. She'd seen him in her dreams and she'd seen him in real life. Thunderbolt Badian and Thunderbolt Flame looked so much alike that Yun Ruoyan would always mistake them for each other. Thunderflame couldn't find Longyin, so he used force to threaten me and Tianhai. We swore that we wouldn't reveal Longyin and Yu Mei's whereabouts, so we were brought here, Lin Tianming continued. My father was also brought here. Lin Qingshua's eyes lit up as she hurriedly asked, Uncle, where is my father now? Faced with Lin Qingshua's expectant gaze, Lin Tianming lowered his head. I'm sorry, Qingxua. I didn't protect your father well. Lin Tianming told Yun Ruoyan and Lin Qingxua that the two of them had been tortured after being brought to the City Lord's manor on the Dark Abyss continent. Later, Thunderflame had threatened Lin Tianhai to kill Lin Tianming, and Lin Tianhai had finally revealed Long Yin and Lin Yuemei's whereabouts in order to save Lin Tianming's life. Because his injuries were too severe, Lin Tianhai soon died in the secret prison of the City Lord's mansion. Upon learning of her father's death, Lin Qingshua's glowing eyes quickly dimmed, and Yun Ruoyan patted her back comfortingly. Tianhai traded his own life for mine. Before he died, he told me to live no matter what. That's why I've been struggling at death's door all these years. I thought I'd die in that prison, but I didn't think the heavens would send you all to me, Lin Tianming said excitedly once more. Lin Tianming didn't know what happened after Thunderflame learned of Long Yin and Lin Yuemei's whereabouts, but Yun Ruoyan had once seen Thunderflame leading a group of men to capture Long Yin. Lin Yuemei had used a spatial scroll to escape back to the Qingyuan continent, return to the Yun family and give birth to Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan told Lin Tianming all of this. At first, we all thought that my mother had passed away, but grandfather discovered that she wasn't the one buried in her grave, so he suspected that she might still be alive, Yun Ruoyan continued. Yun Ruoyan continued, as for my father, I'm afraid Thunderflame is the only one who knows where he went after he was captured by him. Yun Ruoyan's eyes blazed once more. She couldn't find her mother's whereabouts for the time being, but Thunderflame would definitely know where her father was. Before she left the Qingyuan continent, she had to get Long Yin's whereabouts from Thunderflame. Liemo had received news that Lin Tianming had been safely rescued and reunited with Yun Ruoyan and Lin Qingxua. Next, he was going to bring Lin Qingxua and Qin Feng out of the City Lord's manor. Without Lin Tianming, escaping from the City Lord's manor wouldn't be too difficult for the three of them. However, the warriors of the Thunderflame family suddenly began to closely monitor the woodshed that the three of them were staying in. According to Li Mo's investigations, there were at least 5 warriors watching the three of them from different corners. Li Mo could enter and leave freely by himself, but with Lin Qingchen and Qin Feng in tow, it would be difficult to avoid detection. Just then, Feng Yicheng sent word that the head of the Feng family wished to meet with Li Mo. Li Mo had met the head of the Feng family at a banquet before. He was a rather scholarly middle-aged man, and he stood out from the rest of the ugly, violent nobles. Li Mo agreed to meet with him, and one night, Li Mo followed Feng Yicheng out of the City Lord's manor. In a restaurant, Li Mo met with the head of the Feng family, Feng Yenyang. Young Master Li, please have a seat. Feng Yenyang gestured for Li Mo to sit down. In front of him was a fragrant teapot and 2 exquisite teacups. Feng Yenyang wasn't in a hurry to speak with Li Mo. Instead, he poured a cup of tea for himself and Li Mo, then invited Li Mo to taste it. The people of the Heiyuan continent valued martial prowess, and they would often arrange for slaves to spar with each other during banquets. As a result, it was rare to see someone sit down and enjoy a cup of tea. Good tea. Li Mo praised, then put down the empty cup in his hand. He looked at the serene middle-aged man in front of him. You're in a good mood, Patriarch Feng? But surely you didn't invite me here just to taste tea? I do have something to tell you. Feng Yenyang said with a smile, the 7 cities martial tournament will be held soon. If I'm not wrong, the Thunder Clan will send you. 7 cities martial arts competition? Li Mo frowned slightly. This was the first time he had heard of this. The Thunderbolt family hadn't heard of this before. How can Patriarch Feng be so sure that the Thunderbolt clan will send me out? As Feng Yenyang filled Li Mo's teacup, he continued, this tournament is extremely important to our 7 families. Last time, Pai Badian of the Pai family fought against Fengbua of the Feng family, and Pai Badian lost. Li Mo glanced at the Count of Feng Feng, who was standing by Feng Yenyang's side. Ever since Li Mo had entered the room, the Count of Feng Feng had been standing there quietly, his aura completely concealed. Apart from his conspicuous robes, there was nothing special about him. I've had a taste of the Count of Feng Feng's skills, Li Mo replied. When he'd fought Li Mo, he'd just broken through to become a second-rank blade master, but he hadn't been able to last more than 10 moves against the Count of Feng Feng. A conservative estimate would place the Count of Feng Feng at around 5th rank. This level of cultivation was definitely at the top of the Qingyuan continent. Li Mo wasn't familiar with how strong the true experts of the continent were, so he couldn't determine Feng's rank or status on the continent. However, he was certain that he was one of the strongest of the 7 cities. If the Feng family sends out the Count of Feng again, the 7 cities probably won't have a match for him, Liemo said. Feng Yangyang shook his head. The tournament is held once every 3 years. The same person can't ascend the stage consecutively. Liemo picked up his teacup and slowly sipped his tea. Feng Yangyang continued, as a second-rank blade master, you're one of the strongest cultivators in the 7 cities. The Thunderbolt Flame won't waste your cultivation. He'll definitely send you out. In that case, what would you like me to do, Patriarch Feng? Liemo asked, glancing at the clear, emerald tea in his cup. The Feng family will send Feng Yicheng to the stage. I hope that the 2 of you can join forces to defeat the other 7 cities' warriors, and then... Feng Yinyang leaned forward slightly and lowered his voice as he explained his plan to Liemo. This will deal a heavy blow to the Thunderbolt family, Feng Yinyang said with a smile. If I do that, I'll definitely anger the Thunderbolt Flame, Liemo said. Patriarch Feng, you have to promise me something. Please speak. I want you to bring my 2 friends out of the Thunderbolt family unharmed, Liemo said. After reaching an agreement with Feng Yinyang, Liemo secretly returned to the Thunderbolt Manor. The next morning he received a summons from the Thunderbolt family. Liemo stood in front of the Thunderbolt just as before, neither servile nor overbearing. Have you recovered from your injuries? The Thunderbolt asked. More or less, Liemo replied coolly. May I ask why you're here, Patriarch Feng? The Thunderbolt raised an eyebrow. Didn't anyone tell you that slaves should refer to themselves as servants? Liemo raised an eyebrow imperceptibly. No one told me when I became a slave of the Thunderbolt family. Thunderflame squinted his eyes and said angrily, What kind of place do you think my Thunderflame clan is? Who do you think you are? The Thunderbolt had a domineering personality, and he wouldn't allow anyone to rebel against him, even if Liemo was useful to him. Of course I know. Liemo didn't seem to care about the Thunderbolt's anger. The Thunderbolt family is the hegemon of the 7 cities, and I wish to serve them as a warrior. Patriarch Feng, would you be willing to accept my allegiance? Upon hearing Liemo's words, the anger on Thunderflame's face slowly dissipated, and his furrowed brows relaxed. Weren't you unwilling to submit all this time? Why are you suddenly pledging your allegiance to me? The Thunderbolt asked. He didn't think that Liemo would willingly submit to him. Liemo's expression turned serious. I know that you're currently searching for a woman named Yun Ruoyan, and I'm sure you've already heard from your son that she's my wife. So you wish to negotiate with me? A trace of anger surfaced on the Thunderbolt's face once more. Chapter 368. Not exactly, Liemo replied. If you accept my allegiance, my wife will naturally pledge her allegiance to you. I hope that you'll be able to give her a lighter punishment. Thunderflame mulled over Liemo's words. Before long, the tournament between the 7 cities would begin, and the Thunderflame family had already lost once, losing the right to manage the extreme darkness to the Feng family. The Darklands was a special region outside the boundaries of the 7 cities. It was home to casinos, brothels, and a host of other entertainment establishments. It was the most famous place on the Dark Abyss continent for spending money. Not only that, but there was also a spirit crystal mine famous for producing high-grade spirit crystals. Over the past 3 years, the Fengs had relied on the enormous income from the mine to increase their strength. Now they had the ambition to compete with the Thunder Flame. If the Thunder Flame lost to the Fengs again, they would very likely be replaced by the Fengs. They couldn't afford to lose this time. The Fengs had originally intended to send Thunder Flame to participate in the tournament, but he died at Liemo's hands. Now, Thunder Flame and Thunder Flame had Thunder Flame as well as Thunder Flame. Liemo was the one with the highest cultivation, so sending him was the best choice. As for Yun Ruoyan, she was someone the Silver Dragon Elder wanted. Thunder Flame didn't have the right to decide. However, for the sake of appeasing Liemo, Thunder Flame decided to agree to his request verbally. Once Liemo won the tournament, everything would be much easier. Liemo only mentioned Yun Ruoyan to allay Thunder Flame's suspicions. As long as Thunder Flame didn't suspect him, his plan with Feng Yenyang would be halfway to success. Alright, this patriarch agrees to your request. Cultivate well in the mansion these few days. If there's anything you need, just tell Steward Hu. When it's time for the martial arts competition of the 7 cities, set off for the land of extreme darkness. The martial arts competition of the 7 cities will be held there. After Liemo left, Thunder Flame walked out of the back hall. "Father, do you believe he'll swear loyalty to the Thunder Flame?" Thunder Flame asked. He'd seen how stubborn Li Mo was. Not only was Li Mo stubborn, but even his woman Xuanhuan was extraordinarily stubborn. Tian. Thunder Flame sat down on a chair and said, "You can't completely trust everyone and you can't not trust them either. Someone has to do it, but you have to be on guard." Thunderbolt Badian nodded. "I understand. The mute girl's mastery of the art of phantasm has reached a great level. Send her to spy on Li Mo." Thunder Flame nodded. "Have you found Xuanhuan?" "No, she seems to have evaporated from the face of the earth." Thunderbolt Badian frowned and shook his head. "I feel that the chances of her surviving under your lightning-attracting art are very small." "Why are you so sure that she's still alive?" "It's not what I believe," Thunderflame replied, "that's what the higher-ups have determined. If we don't find Xuanhuan soon enough, we won't be able to answer to them." Thunderbolt Bashan's expression turned cold as he said, "Son, increase the manpower and search again." Xuanhuan had been with the troop all this time, but she had once again disguised herself as an ugly girl and an old woman who worked in the kitchen. She had managed to easily deal with the guards of the Thunderclap family several times. Roughly half a month later, Li Mo headed to the darkest reaches of the city, accompanied by Thunderflame, and a black-clothed, masked woman. That woman was the mute girl who had been assigned by Thunderflame's side to keep an eye on Li Mo ever since he had left the city lord's manor. She had been following Li Mo like a shadow. Li Mo could tell that she was an early 9th-rank blade master, which wasn't considered high among the warriors of Thunderflame's manor. However, her concealment techniques were superb, and she was constantly shrouded in a ghostly aura. Sometimes she would appear and disappear so suddenly that even Li Mo couldn't detect her. The mute girl's existence had caused Li Mo quite a bit of trouble. Originally he could have communicated with Xuanhuan through Mo, but with the mute girl's presence, the two of them had almost completely lost contact. Xuanhuan had also learned from Feng Yicheng that there was a black-clothed woman by Li Mo's side. After thinking for a long while, she came up with a solution. "Are you going to head to the darkest reaches of the land as well?" Xuanhuan asked Feng Yicheng. She had long since learned about the tournament and the situation in the darkest reaches of the land from Li Mo's letter, as well as that Feng Yicheng was the representative of the Feng family. "Yes, I'm here to inform you that we'll be leaving tomorrow," Feng Yicheng replied. "I'm going with you," Xuanhuan replied. Feng Yicheng hesitated for a moment, but before he could respond, Xuanhuan continued, "Didn't you say that Li Mo's ghostly companions were troublesome? I have a way to deal with them." Feng Yicheng finally agreed to let Xuanhuan accompany him to the darkest reaches of the land. The next day the two of them set off. Lin Qingchen and Lin Tianming were brought to the Feng family and made appropriate arrangements for them. The troop began their activities in the smaller towns around Thunderbolt City. These towns all belonged to the Thunderbolt family, and as far as Andy Hong knew, quite a few of the smaller families had submitted to the Thunderbolt family's tyranny. The troop's next task was to rope these smaller families into the Feng family's camp. Xuanhuan followed Feng Yicheng to meet up with Feng Yenyang as well as the Count of Feng. The Feng family's affairs were left to Feng Mian. At first, Xuanhuan had thought that the tournament was just an ordinary tournament, but after seeing the Feng and Thunderbolt families mobilizing such a large force, she had a new understanding of the tournament. At the same time she began to worry about Li Mo. As a result, Xuanhuan requested to catch up with Li Mo and the others first. Feng Yenyang agreed and had the Count of Feng escort her. Because it was a deliberate pursuit, it only took a day for Xuanhuan to arrive at the small town where the Thunderbolt family was staying for the night. "Count of Feng, I'd better go find Li Mo on my own," Xuanhuan suggested. "I heard that the woman's cultivation isn't very high. I'm confident that I can deal with her." "That woman's forte isn't cultivation. Even I'd have trouble seeing through her concealment techniques, let alone a mid-9th rank blade master like you." The Count of Feng's first words were a blow to Xuanhuan's confidence. "How about this? I'll give you a helper to deal with that woman." Count of Feng waved his hand in the air, and a black figure appeared out of thin air. Xuanhuan's eyes widened in shock. The figure that had appeared was none other than the ghostly figure that bore a grudge against Xuanhuan and the others. "Fengbo, what's he doing here?" Xuanhuan subconsciously assumed a defensive stance. "Don't worry," the Count of Feng laughed. The Count of Feng smiled. "I'll have to thank Li Mo for that." This ghostly figure possessed a rather seductive woman's corpse in an attempt to seduce the young city lord. Thanks to Li Mo's warning, I was able to subdue it in time and make it my own. I originally intended to give it to Liemo, but it's the same to you now. The Count of Feng took off a ring from his finger and handed it to Xuanhuan. I've refined this ghostly figure into this ring. Now it can't stray more than half a kilometer from this ring, or it'll turn to dust. Xuanhuan took the ring, and the ghostly figure immediately floated to her side. Seeing that it was no longer as arrogant and strange as before, Xuanhuan asked the Count of Feng for the reason. The Count of Feng told Xuanhuan that evil spirits were afraid of being refined. This ghostly figure's consciousness had already been refined by the Count of Feng, and it was now nothing more than a puppet. As long as one infused spiritual energy into the ring, they would be able to summon it for their own use. In addition, the ghostly figure couldn't actually attack, and could only release poison. Now, however, the Count of Feng had refined a ghostly blade that could kill without leaving a trace. In short, the ghostly figure was a lethal weapon. Its cultivation isn't very high, so it's only suitable for sneak attacks, the Count of Feng added. Xuanhuan put the ring on her finger, and the specter disappeared into it in a flash. Xuanhuan cupped her fists at the Count of Feng, then leaped down the building. A red glow appeared beneath her feet as she headed toward the inn where Liemo and the others were staying. In order not to attract attention, Xuanhuan put away the scarlet eye spiritual sword when she was still some distance away from the inn. Then she carefully hid in a corner of the inn's walls. Xuanhuan had Xiaoqiu contact Liemo. Liemo was immersed in cultivation, but when he heard that Xuanhuan was outside the inn, he immediately awoke from his cultivation. Why are you here? Didn't I tell you to go to the Feng Manor with Qingxue and Uncle? Hurry up and go back. Liemo was a little anxious and angry. His Yen was becoming more and more disobedient. Liemo, do you think Mistress will listen to you? Xiaoqiu's voice was as helpless as Liemo's. Xuanhuan's actions had put her life on the line several times, and Xiaoqiu hoped that she would listen to Liemo's advice. No, she won't. Liemo couldn't help but facepalm. Xuanhuan didn't seem to listen to him at all. Xiaoqiu, can you ask if that woman is around? Xiaoqiu asked Liemo. Xiaoqiu told Liemo that the woman was invisible at night, but would appear at the slightest sign of trouble. What a ghost! Xuanhuan snorted. Mistress, let the ghostly figure do it, Xiaoqiu suggested. The Count of Feng said that the ghostly figure's cultivation isn't very high, and that she's only suitable for sneak attacks. I'd like to meet her myself. Xuanhuan retracted her aura as she spoke, then climbed up the walls of the inn to the third floor, where Liemo was staying. Although she wasn't completely confident that she'd be able to subdue the ghostly figure, it wouldn't be difficult for her to escape. As soon as Xuanhuan stepped onto the third floor, she felt a gust of wind from the back of her neck. Who's there? A hoarse female voice called out. You're tuning in to the Sword Dance in the Vast Sky YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.